Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, March 28th. It's my sister's birthday. It's about 7:32 p.m. It's a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It's a general meeting at a public hearing, and we're here in room 119 in Town Hall. We have a rather limited agenda tonight. It may be short, it may be long, we'll see. Let's get right into it. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing, starting with proposed amendments of zoning regulations, COZR number 1-2023, site plan application number 310A as an apple, special permit application number 324A, flood damage prevention application number 425A, 7 Sedgwick Avenue LLC, 7 Sedgwick Avenue. The proposal is to amend sections 726.13-13 of the zoning regulations to increase the maximum floor area of dwelling units in the Central Business District CBD from 1,000 square feet to 2,000 square feet. And also proposal to amend section 726 Note F of the zoning regulations to allow third floor dwelling units as incentive units under the inclusionary housing zone. The proposal is to raise the existing bank building on the site, convert and redevelop the property as multifamily residential, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including regrading of the property, installation of landscaping, lighting, and stormwater management. The applicant proposed to construct a multifamily apartment building with a total of 22 1- and 2-bedroom apartments on 2 floors above a parking level, including 4 deed-restricted affordable units. A total of 40 surface-level parking spaces will be created under the building. The 0.49 plus or minus acre subject property is located at the southwest corner formed by its intersection of Sedgwick Avenue and Old Kings Highway North, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 71 as lots 15 and 16 in the Central Business District. The full text of the proposed zoning regulation amendments is on file and available in the town clerk's office and in the planning and zoning office for inspection and online at www.darianct.viewpointcloud.com. That was a nice full long one. We saw this application in
last year.
Really?
2022.
Really? Okay. Pre-application in 2022. I think they also went to the Architecture Review Board as a full application, as a pre-application.
I don't recall, but Mr. Mayor can fill us in as part of this presentation.
And then I think they're also in front of the Sewer Commission.
That's correct.
Is
Currently they're in front?
Currently, yes. The Sewer Commission meets next Tuesday.
Okay. And any of those have been all in work in process?
The Sewer Commission is work in progress. They do have a report from the Architecture Review Board.
Fantastic. Okay. We all know the property. It sits out in front of Good Vibe Shopping Center on the corner. It's got a neighbor of 800 Post Road, which is an office building, and another municipal parking lot next to that, and also behind the fire station. You want to give us a quick overview, Fred? Is this one yours?
Yeah, sure. So, as Jeremy mentioned, the application was put forth, submitted to the Planning and Zoning Department in, I believe, the spring of last year in 2022. The application was withdrawn by the applicant June of last year, June of 2022. As was mentioned, they did go before the Architectural Review Board in the spring of last year. They went back and forth with the ARB a few times, and I don't believe the Architectural Review Board issued a positive recommendation for the commission to consider at that time. And then subsequently the application was withdrawn.
Great.
So the commission didn't end up seeing anything. This new application has been submitted in conformance with Sections 1000 and 1020 of the Darien Zoning Regulations for site plan approval and special permit approval, as well as Section 820 of the regulations relative to flood damage prevention. It really is a two-part application, as you mentioned, Steve, the first part being the change in zone to allow the reduction in square footage of the dwelling units for the building. So they would need that zoning amendment to move the rest of the application forward.
It's not reduction, it's increasing.
increase.
I'm sorry, yes, increasing, correct.
Now, is retail required in its zone, the ground floor?
It is not.
Okay.
The application was referred out to Ty and Bond. Joe Canis submitted engineering review comments for the record dated March 24th. It was also referred out to Greg Del Rio of Hardesty in Hanover. He submitted peer review comments for the Commission's consideration on March 24th and yesterday, March 27th, in response to police comments that were submitted for the record on February 9th.
We just got all that stuff today, right?
Correct. The Health Department also commented on the application, submitted comments for the record on February 7th. And Rick Talamelli of our office submitted review comments relative to impacts on the flood zone on March 6th. Those are essentially a rehash of the comments that he submitted as part of the previous application back in 2022. The building is located in the AE flood zone with a base flood elevation of 48.5. The design has been put forth with a first floor elevation 1 foot above the base flood at 49.5. We have Mr. Maslin here this evening, who is representing the applicant, and he's going to present the application and answer any questions that you may have with the rest of his team here. He has folks from Land Tech, ELS on landscaping, Land Tech on civil, SLR on traffic. So Bob, let me take it away.
Bob's a frequent flyer, and that's how things work around this here town. Welcome,
Been here once or twice in the last
once or twice.
25, 30 years.
There you go. Welcome. What do you got, Bob?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Maslin. I'm the attorney for the applicant, which is 7 Sedgwick Avenue, LLC. With me tonight are Chip Platts, who's the principal of 7 Sedgwick LLC. He's in the front row there in the audience section, all the way on the left. Mark Andre is to his left, to your right of Chip. Mark is the project architect. You know Matt Pop, landscape architect. And to his left, Neil Alinsky of SLR. He's our traffic consultant. And Andy Sumalides just raised his hand. Second row, second from the left, and Kurt Lowenstein to his right. So it's the two gentlemen to the left, on the left end of the second row, are from Land Tech Consultants, and they are the civil engineers. What I thought I would do, given some of the timing of things like referral reports, peer reviews, neighbor comments, is go through our presentation using the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint consists almost entirely of material already in the application file, with a little bit of commentary, which you would get anyway at a hearing. And then on the peer reviews, maybe I should close the door.
You can't.
You can close that one.
Oh,
That one's
that
open.
one.
On the peer reviews, we received one report from Joe Canis on the engineering, and one of the two reports from Greg Del Rio on traffic and parking on Friday. The staff was kind enough to forward that, even though Town Hall is closed. This morning, we received the second letter from Greg Del Rio, and that letter addressed specifically comments that were submitted by the police department on behalf of the traffic authority. So what I thought I would do is go through our presentation and then provide much more detailed responses than we could prepare in a few hours to those peer reviews. And then obviously any comments from the neighbors. So here we go. If that's okay, do you think we should do it a different way, Mr. Chairman? All right. Now here's an overview.
Do we have this on paper or not?
It's in the, given,
Yeah.
I do have, I can give you, no, I don't have a full copy. I gave part of it away. But
Okay.
these are on the website. They're uploaded to the application. So you get the full-blown color. You can blow them up, get a good look at them. And I'll submit paper copies tomorrow.
Okay.
But anyway, we're at business site plan review, as Fred mentioned, for the demolition of the existing Bank of America branch. A special permit under Section 585 for the apartments on the upper level, and building height of 32.5 feet. And these are under the incentives available under the Inclusionary Zoning Regulation. Flood damage prevention permit. As Fred mentioned, this site is entirely in flood zone A. It is not in the floodway, so we can confirm that. And then, if necessary, landfilling and regrading permit, but this is a pretty flat lot. There's really no appreciable regrading going to go on other than just site preparation and as necessary for construction. The two zoning regulation amendments are as follows. One, we increase the maximum apartment size from 1,000 square feet to 2,000 square feet. This is our original request when some of the units were closer to 2,000 square feet. The largest unit now is about 1,600 square feet. So I don't know if you want to maybe get us to lower that and see how it goes, but you know, we're not proposing any units that are actually 2,000 square feet. Section 726, and I'll get into more specifics. There's a clarification here, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to look at the parking requirement because they've kind of changed, and there's some statutory activity going on with parking in multifamily apartments and transportation, what do you call it, zones, things like that. So I'll get into this in a little more detail at the end. So here's our summary. It's just under a half acre, 0.459 acres. As I mentioned, former Bank of America. The building itself is not compliant with the flood zone regulations. The floor elevation is below the base flood elevation, and during the major storms, particularly the one in September a couple of years ago, this had several feet of water in it, as did downtown. 4 one-bedroom and 7 two-bedroom units on each floor, with an additional room on the first level for a rental office and a small gym on the second level. The floor plans are pretty much identical, floor to floor. The math works out to 4.29 affordable units, so you'll get 4 whole ones, and 0.29 is a fee in lieu. Roughly 5,500 square feet is an outside amenity space on the roof. If you know what an endless pool is, it's one of those pools with a current in it to make you think you're actually swimming someplace, but it's a one person at a time thing. It's not like a very large Olympic-sized pool. And some seating areas and a barbecue and those sorts of things. The rest of the roof is going to be about 144 solar panels, so we'll get some solar energy in here as well. There was a typo in the narrative. It's actually 38 on-site parking spaces, which is one more than the 37 required under Section 904B. The new building, as mentioned, will be completely flood compliant. and will actually reduce the volume of structure that's going to be sitting in water during a major flood. Because the whole under structure is going to be an open parking area or open garage rather than an enclosed structure. And then obviously we have to do an engineered stormwater management system, which is also here. A tour of the neighborhood quickly. Aerial photograph, we have the building right smack in the middle. Goodwife Shopping Center is off to the right where this little area here, I think, can you see my, no you can't. Maybe I can do it this way. Laser pointer. There we are. That's the entrance to Goodwife Shopping Center parking lot. The river itself runs along here, goes under this concrete portion of the, I guess, bridge, and then comes down this way and behind, like, I guess there's a dry cleaner and a fish market over the Fisherman's Net. Municipal parking lot here. This is 800 Post Road. Post Road is up in the upper left. Houlihan Lawrence is right on the corner here, and this series of buildings on the other side of these green trees and such are the condominiums. Existing building, as you can see, it's right down on the ground. The flood elevation is up a few feet from the ground here, and obviously you see it's non-conforming. Another picture of it. Another showing the parking lot in the rear. Most of the site is impervious now, except for a grass area toward the front and these little islands here. Another view of the parking lot. Sedgwick is along this wooden, looks like a stockade fence or opaque fence of some sort. Houlihan Lawrence is over here on the left. Looking from Sedgwick toward Goodwives, here's the flag right at the, I think that's on the traffic circle. That could be wrong. But the subject building is over here on the left. This little mini roof here was the ATM, and what people did all the time was they'd pull up, park here, and run in and use the ATM. And I'd been there sometimes when 2 or 3 cars would be lined up there. This view is from the driveway to the condos looking back toward the traffic circle here. Goodwives is off to the left and the building is on the right. This is just exactly the opposite direction. This is as you come out from the municipal parking lot right here. This driveway over here is the exit from Fisherman's Net and those other stores. And the traffic circle is over here, stop sign. I guess the flag is into Goodwives here, but you can see a little glimpse of the building over on the left. And then I took some photographs of buildings in the neighborhood. This is 800 Post Road. It's next door to the subject site. Off to the left of the photograph is the subject site itself. And it's a Google Earth picture, but it's the perspective on this is pretty much at the boundary between the two properties. Another view of 800 Post Road. Houlihan Lawrence building is on the right. 777 is a 3-story building on the opposite corner of Sedgwick and the Post Road. Firehouse, which is diagonally through the properties on the Post Road. I don't know how many real stories are here, but it got a high ceiling in the bay level and then upstairs, so it's a pretty significant height. 745 Post Road at Academy Street, mixed-use building, 3 floors with some windows and space up in the attic level. Another building, 3 stories. This is the Royal, the redeveloped town hall homes or old town hall homes, and this is the 3-story office building across the Post Road from the Royal. Surveys, I'll go through these quickly. I don't know we have to spend a lot of time on them, but we have the zoning table up here, gives you the current information, and then we go to the next slide. You have the proposed information up here. Everything complies with the setbacks, we're really dealing with special permit issues in this application. Okay. Site plans and civil engineering. Kurt Lowenstein's on his way up here. I'll see how we can work this out so that he can talk, and I'll work the magic here.
Just flip to the site
Oh.
plan.
Let's do it this way. Okay.
And
Oh,
I
yeah,
can just
yeah,
tab through?
Yeah, tap that.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Kurt Lowenstein, professional engineer with Landtech. We did the site civil design on this project. As Bob mentioned, the existing conditions is similar to what we're proposing. Most of the site is impervious and existing, as it is in proposed. The existing site has no stormwater detention on it, has a few catch basins that directly pass into the town system. We're proposing to capture all of the roof area as well as the small areas of uncovered roof right there, yep. And all of that will be routed into underground detention systems. One that Bob's highlighting there, and then it overflows into a second system before overflowing into the town system. We do have an outlet control structure on there, on the outlet end of that second system, and that will act to control the flow out of the site. So we'll be actually for all storm events, Darien requires the 2 through the 50-year storm modeled. We're reducing the peak rate for all of those storm events while also providing treatment of the water, of the runoff from the site.
Fresh meadow approach.
Exactly. Yep. So the existing conditions are modeled as if this was all grass. We don't take into account for any existing impervious, although the reality is that the existing site is predominantly paved. We did receive comments, as Bob said, from Joe Canis, many of which pertain to the stormwater, but we've reviewed them and we feel they're all easily addressed. We will address, have a full report and revised plan accordingly before next hearing. Thanks, Bob. Soil erosion, obviously most of the site is taken up by building, so silt fencing will be provided around the entire perimeter of the site. The catch basin on Old Kings Highway that we're proposing to connect to, they'll be putting a temporary silt sack in there that'll prevent any type of material that may make its way off site from getting into the town system. Flood-wise, the last thing I want to hit on is existing building, obviously not FEMA compliant. It's a large mass, removing potential flood storage on the site. Our proposed plan here elevates the solid walls above and provides essentially full flood storage on the property. So in the proposed conditions, there's an increase in flood storage provided as compared to the existing conditions.
What exactly do you mean by that, flood storage on site?
So in the event of a flood, right, as Bob mentioned, the previous building, when the flood comes up and then it makes its way into the building, that mass of the building, think of the three-dimensional space, is removed. That volume of water that could have been there. Because our building is elevated above that, below is all open. The waters can freely pass and equalize in there, thus we're not removing the storage on the site.
In your calculations, did you assume there were 0 cars in that space?
Yes, that would be the presumption, but to your point, there would be some cars, but it would be a wash. In the existing, you do have cars
Do
too.
you do modeling typically for 0 cars, every single space is filled with a car that has a mass of blank that could be shifted around and up against, forced against walls and displacing water that you think you can store and pass through? That may in fact not be the case if there's 40 cars in there.
Typically, the analysis would be based on solid walls that are permanent. You got to think in a flooding event, in all likely, a serious flooding event like this, cars would likely be evacuated. But the analysis could be done that way. The typical way the analysis is done is based on fixed structure, so foundational walls,
That's your
things of that
assumption. Okay,
nature.
thank you.
I got this little summary sheet here.
Sure. So, to wrap up the stormwater, the peak attenuation, 2 through the 50 year. As I mentioned, the fresh meadow approach, which is the requirement of the town. takes into account that there is no existing impervious areas,
Yep.
which overcompensates essentially from what is there now. So we're meeting that criteria. We're providing not only the peak rate reduction, but also the water quality value of detaining that water, that runoff from the roof and the uncovered paved areas. And then as we were just discussing with the flood damage, because we're removing this large mass of a building that's there now, we're elevating the building. We're also providing all the adequate flood venting for any enclosed spaces that there are at, or rather below base flood elevation. The floodwaters will be allowed to equalize throughout the site.
You keep calling it a large, massive building, so it's like 2,000 feet. right?
From a volumetric standpoint, 2,000 square feet, and the rough elevation of the site is 44 and a half, and the base flood is 48 and a half. That's a fair bit of flood storage. You know, if you're looking from the whole area, but we're looking micro on our site, that's all we can control. We're providing substantially more flood storage on the site than what is there now.
Right, there's none there now, but it's a 2,000 square foot building. It's not
But he's saying he had to just do sections, cross sections.
Right, figure you
additive
have
to-
almost 4 feet of standing
Yeah,
water
versus
in this
just
area for the
pylons.
100-year storm event.
I don't have it here, but do you have the square footage of the lobbies and the other areas that are
Yeah.
enclosed?
We do have those, I don't have them on hand. Mark Andre will be following me up, and we can provide that to you. Otherwise, we can provide it after tonight's hearing too.
Yeah, because that's going to be a net. You have at least 500 square feet.
Well, the lobby areas, because we're providing the flood venting to meet FEMA compliance on this, when the floodwaters come in, those lobbies will fill. So yeah, you will lose some for the thickness of the walls, but the lobby itself will not be a full mass taken out of the flood storage. Same thing goes for any of the other enclosed areas below base flood elevation.
So there's flood vents in the lobbies and the staircases?
Yes, all enclosed areas will need to meet the
That's what I thought,
flood opening requirement.
Okay.
Is there any other questions before I pass it back to Bob?
No, it's good for them.
Pass it over to you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, Trevor. Sorry.
Well, hold on, do you want it, you guys, hold on a second. Do you guys want to ask the individual engineers questions or experts questions before I move on to the next one?
How does the lobby flood? Because if you're looking at the picture, it looks like if you have flood vents in the back, it looks like it floods from the back in and not releasing water out from the front door.
Well, the flood vents allow water to equalize. So as the stormwater or as the flood comes up, those vents will open. The water will come in, and then it'll eventually seep to the level, whatever the elevation, in this case is 48 and a half. It'll equalize around the building, and the vents allow the water to move in and out of the structure.
So that lobby, that'll flood just like anything else.
Yes. Yep. All enclosed space has adequate flood venting to allow the equalization.
Is the leasing office on that floor, or is it on this second floor?
That's a
First
It's
floor.
the first apartment level.
Yeah.
So the first floor, not on the ground floor.
Yes.
I thought the narrative said it was on the ground floor, no?
I believe the ground floor is just
First
lobby
level?
and
Yeah.
ingress and egress.
It's probably a little confusing. It depends on whether you call the garage level a floor. If you call it a floor, then it's, first apartment level is floor number 2. If you don't call it a floor, then it's on floor number 1.
The garage would
It's
essentially
above.
would be
It's
level
up.
0,
Yeah,
and,
it's up.
and then first floor would be above. Yes.
Okay. George, anything for this engineer?
No, sir, thank you.
Right? Okay,
Neil?
next.
Good evening, for the record, Neil Olinsky with SLR Consulting. We worked on the traffic and parking for the project. So the main thing, probably the main thing to know about this project is it's expected to generate less traffic than the prior bank that was on the site. And that's key. It's simply less intense from a peak hour traffic generation standpoint. Consider the fact that it's in essence, a transit-oriented type of development in a downtown within walking distance compared to a drive-in bank. So that's key. This is expected to generate less traffic, the proposed residential compared to the prior bank. Thus, there's really no comparative traffic impact. Next, I'm going to go through some of the other things we looked at. As you have seen on the site plan, there's going to be one entrance and one exit. The proposed entrance is proposed to be from Old Kings Highway North. And we're locating the entrance driveway as far south along the site frontage as possible, really as far away from the circle intersection at Sedgwick as possible. One of the, we also looked at what some common sense type of improvements that would make sense directly off-site adjacent. One of the things we looked at is potentially moving the stop bar on the northbound approach Old Kings Highway North at Sedgwick, moving it a bit north, which will move it a bit further away from the proposed entrance driveway. That'll also benefit visibility at the intersection because that northbound approach would simply be closer to the intersection to be able to see eastbound and southbound approaching vehicles at Sedgwick. So we thought that made sense. Back to the access, the site exit, the site egress is proposed to be at Sedgwick, to Sedgwick Avenue. In fact, we're actually going to be reducing the number of curb cuts at Sedgwick from 2 to 1, which is an improvement. Tied to that is one thing we're proposing on Sedgwick, which is to stripe a shoulder lines on Sedgwick, the block of Sedgwick. And I'll show an image of this in a second. But that'll have the benefit of better delineating the travel ways on Sedgwick, moving regular vehicle traffic a bit further away from the sidewalk, and then also helping the site egress as well. It'll essentially create, say, on the south side, as you see right here, a 5-foot shoulder, so that car that's right up against the curb won't be traveling there, won't be moving there. And for motorists exiting our site, they'll be able to edge out a bit more to better see approaching traffic and egress from the site, turn left or right out of the site.
So they enter in off of Old Kings Highway and they exit out of Sedgwick.
Correct.
But now they
One
go.
way.
One-way flow. Within the site, you'll be able, it's
Yep.
constrained, but you'll be able to go
Just want to make sure I'm interpreting it so far.
Can you,
Okay.
can you
Right, both
exit at
directions.
Old Kings Highway and go right into the municipal parking lot like how you can now?
No, you cannot exit.
So
You
it's
will
one
not be
way
able
in.
to. It'll be one way in from
One way
Old
out.
Kings Highway and one way out to Sedgwick.
Okay.
And we're also proposing a couple striping and signage things at the intersection there at the circle. Proposing to put in a stop bar at the southbound approach, which we think makes sense, really to essentially slow down vehicles so they don't make that southbound right turn sort of whipping around the corner. And to really allow the intersection to function more as a sort of more typical always stop controlled operation. And we're proposing to put in a crosswalk on the west leg there, which we think makes sense. There are actually already drop down pedestrian ramps there, so why not just stripe a crosswalk? Yep, right there, the crosswalk would be proposed, would be new.
I think you mentioned moving the other one.
We mentioned moving, oh, yes, on that southerly leg, as we move the stop bar, we'd shift that crosswalk up as well, so you wouldn't have that double crosswalk look. So really, we think some relatively minor but common sense things right at our doorstep there at the corner. In terms of parking, this is just the same thing, just with the actual site plan dropped on.
Before you move on, let's
Sure.
ask you a couple questions. All right, coming out onto Sedgwick, that's, I can go left and right, so I'm crossing the double line.
You could take a left or right out of the site to Sedgwick.
Okay, is it safe to go out and make a left and cross a double line?
A double,
Isn't there, that's two ways there, right?
the driveway will be one way. Sedgwick is
The
two-way.
double- The double yellow line in the middle of the street is what I'm talking
Yeah, just like any other curb cut, you could take a left across the double yellow center
about. Okay,
line.
but I'm asking if it's safe.
Traveling in a vehicle is, I never use the word safe, but we look at things like sight lines. We look at sight lines, and what we're trying to do is to take a left, you're going to be looking to the left and the right in order to cross or enter, at least cross both lanes of traffic.
Right.
So, looking right, another benefit of adding a stop bar and stop sign on that southbound approach is so that approaching vehicles will be slowed, in essence. So, you're looking out of the driveway to the right, to the circle. You can only see as far as the circle. So the other end of the equation is you want to slow approaching traffic, and that stop bar helps to do that.
Right,
Looking to the left, we're maxing that out towards the signal, and by putting in a shoulder there, someone exiting the site will be able to better creep, essentially edge out to a point where they can better adequately see approaching traffic. Where you cannot necessarily do that without the shoulder, because there could be cars traveling right up along the curb line.
I've just never heard a traffic engineer call it creep out of the property.
Creep out, edge out. It's not a technical term, but you know what I mean.
That's the new one. And now
I don't know if I answered your question, but
Going in on
Inch out.
Sedgwick, going in on Old Kings Highway, you got traffic coming in from both directions, right? From the north and from the south?
correct.
Because it goes one way after that?
Mm-hmm.
Now tell me about that, because you have 40 parking or 38 parking spaces in there.
Well, it would function like any other driveway. Cars could take a left or a right in.
There's stop signs here. Here,
Every
here, stop bar. There's another one back here.
right, that's to our south.
There's no stop sign
So
there.
There's no
traffic
stop
coming
bar
There's no
there.
stop sign there.
There's no stop bar
Let
there.
him talk.
Not on Old Kings Highway North, but exiting the Mechanic Street lot. But that doesn't really necessarily affect our driveway ingress. I don't know what else to say. I mean, putting in a stop bar at the circle intersection will again stops and help southbound traffic. Approaching traffic going southbound will stop, then have to maneuver around the circle as they do now, which naturally slows traffic.
So-
Eastbound traffic has a stop. They'll have to take a right turn. That's not going to be a fast speed. And they'll, if you want to enter the site rather, just enter it right there.
The fast speed's gonna be the people that are going from the Post Road to Good Wife Shopping Center. That's where I drive fast. And then you got a guy coming out making a left out of the how many parking spaces were in the old bank branch? And part of the problem that I have is the bank branch that was there has been closed for at least 4 years. So you're referring back to something that is not even a use anymore. It's not even grandfathered, it's been there, it's been empty.
So another bank couldn't go back in there.
No.
That was one of my questions is, in your analysis, what was your baseline usage on the existing site?
Which is nothing.
Which in reality, you might say, I pulled bank data and typical bank traffic has inflows and outflows of X, but in reality, what has been there has been zero. So I guess that's what you're hearing from Steve.
So a bank could not go back as of right, so to speak.
And so the level
If that's
of
the, go ahead.
crashes or traffic or things that people feel now is currently at a operation zero level on that site. Where in your analysis, I'm sure you rightfully so thought it had a bank operations of X level of inflows and outflows.
And it did in the
that
past.
fact has not been the case.
Right, and
Even if we looked at that,
but in your report, you have the in and outs in there. What year was that from, or is that?
that's based on industry data. Obviously, we can't go back in time and count it.
Yeah.
But even if this was a greenfield site, undeveloped, ever, we put in essentially a multifamily in this type of environment, it's not a whole lot of new traffic. I've heard complaints, everybody complains about traffic. existing conditions out there are not, obviously not being created by this development, and oftentimes it's spillback traffic from traffic that could be backed up on the highway spilling onto Route 1, or traffic congestion that signals downstream closer to the railroad overpass rather. So, no development can go back or can go around and fix all the existing problems. But the amount of new traffic from this development, when we look at comparing traffic impacts with and without a development, it's not a whole lot of new traffic. And quite frankly, I wouldn't expect it to have any impact, especially even more so when you compare it to the prior bank. And if another bank were to go back on the site.
How many parking spaces are in the back branch today?
I don't have that in my fingers. We can look at an aerial. It's probably comparable, 30 some odd
Not
spaces.
quite the same number, but
No, it's not close.
it's roughly 20.
20 spaces. 20 spaces.
So you're doubling the parking spaces.
Yes, but you can't look at parking and say that is a perfect correlation to traffic, because residents, some residents are going to live here, and they're not going to be driving every day. Some people might, who knows who's going to live here, but some people might say, I want to live in this spot because it's so close to the train station. Maybe I'll only use my cars a few days a week or on the weekends, and I'll just commute in New York City during the week and walk to the shopping plaza across the way and not create vehicle traffic every day of the week.
Question for you.
Yes.
I see you have the weekday morning and afternoon hours, but in reality, the traffic buildup here is on the north side of Sedgwick Avenue, queuing to get to the post road, where it backs all the way up. You're proposing to narrow that road. It almost acts like a de facto 2-lane road now. I mean, I was there at 3 o'clock today. Cars were backed up all the way to your site. So you're narrowing that road, making that flow more restrictive. And really, I observed the most traffic just because that's our grocery store, and the hockey rink is down the street. And Trader Joe's is down the road as well. Weekends around there, particularly on like a Saturday afternoon, has significantly more traffic than a weekday. But do you have any analysis on weekend flow and how much traffic you'll be adding to a normal weekend day, or did you only do the weekdays?
We only looked at weekdays. But again, it's not a huge development. And existing traffic congestion out there, it's not something this development is creating. And quite frankly, I don't think it would exacerbate it. And as far as the westbound approach, we don't necessarily need that striped shoulder on the north side. We could take that out and just propose a striped shoulder on the south side. And we're going to be back before you on this continued hearing. So we can update this and to show that more appropriately.
Is there going to be also, my concern too is on Old Kings Highway, because that's coming from a one-way street currently, right? You make a right by the pizza place, you go along the train tracks, and then you make that left there, and then basically you cut through that parking lot, through the fire station, and get out to the post road, which is how essentially everybody uses their Friday night pizza. Most cars coming down that road don't necessarily know that all of a sudden oncoming traffic is going to be coming right in their face. Do you have any other signage or any other thing on that road to let motorists know that oncoming traffic might be approaching? So
I'm not sure I follow. What do you mean oncoming traffic is coming in their face? Where are we talking about?
Just before your entrance to your parking,
On Old Kings Highway North.
on Old Kings Highway North is one-way traffic right now. And essentially because that lot
South of the
it's not.
Mechanic Street lot, it's one
No,
way.
only part of it. It
Part of it's
changes
one
from
way.
one-way to two-way.
it changes from one
Not
to
the
two.
curb cut.
But because nobody's there, it's essentially just a one-way street. So motorists now don't expect traffic to come at them head-on.
It's
from
one
there.
way south here.
Yeah,
Right.
Heading northbound.
Then it
Two
turns
ways.
into
So the one-way southbound traffic has to take a right here, but they're not aligned with the northbound traffic because of this bump out right here. Yes, you might see a headlight, but that shouldn't be unusual if you're driving around a downtown
But
area.
right now, that would be unusual.
It would be
So a
weird.
motorist right now would not anticipate.
It's existing. How is that not unusual when it's existing?
No one ever drives that way.
Because nobody drives that way.
When
Nope.
did you visit?
How
the
could you say
property?
there's a lot of traffic when nobody drives that way?
When did you?
Because
when did
it's
you
a
visit-
one-way street
It's
going
going to
the other
stay
way.
one way northbound.
When did you observe this? What day?
When did you
I've been
visit-
out there several
When did
times.
you visit the site?
I was out there last week and this afternoon as
What
well.
was the traffic counts done?
We didn't do existing traffic counts because this is expected to be a less intense development than the prior use.
Okay. And how did the
There
comments,
was no prior use.
how,
There was a bank, if
Yeah,
I'm
4 years ago.
Yeah.
How did
It's not that long
How
ago.
did the, I thought there was a count on the Friday after Thanksgiving during COVID. That was from the first application? That's what the remarks that I saw from the
I think we might have looked at existing,
saying that.
existing state traffic monitoring data. We actually did look at queuing, that's
It's
true.
November 19th, 2021.
We did look at queuing, we did some queuing counts, which helped us determine our proposed entrance and exit directionality.
One other question for Fred and Jeremy, or anybody else on the commission. I don't have a recollection of another stop bar anywhere in town. Is there one that I'm not aware of? Stop bars in town?
Oh, no, we're talking about a stopped, a painted
oh,
stop bar, that's
oh,
what
I'm
we call
thinking to
that,
myself,
striping.
Okay, I'm like, okay, thank you.
Jeremy, do we need a double yellow line on that side of the road since it's two-way? If you look at the intersection.
On Old Kings Highway North?
Yeah.
I can
See how-
certainly,
See how it's on both Sedgwick and on the other side of the island, but realistically, traffic pattern is the same on both sides. You would think there'd be a double yellow line on the, I guess, the south side of this map.
I can certainly
It's
check
a
with
s- yeah, it's
Public
a s-
Works on
Yeah.
that, or
Traffic authority.
the police,
Yeah.
either way.
It's a single yellow line now.
Single line,
Yeah,
Right here.
even just a line.
Right where the black
There is one
wording
there.
Oh, there is a line.
Good.
okay.
Great, so we don't have any traffic counts of what's going on today.
We could look at state traffic monitoring data for the roadways.
You don't ever do like real live counts?
We do when we expect it to have an impact, but in
Did
this
you have a
case,
1,000 space parking lot next to you inside Good Vibes?
but we're not proposing 1,000 space parking
That's what people
for this
go
site
down.
as a new,
My point is
thing.
people are going down Sedgwick from the post road into Good Vibes. That's where the traffic draw is.
mm-hmm.
And they're going right past your front door.
Yeah, and we're not expected, like I said, we're not expected to exacerbate whatever traffic flows are out there now when you look at the big picture. Even more so when you look at it compared to the bank. I said that a million times, but even if you took away the bank from the equation, I mean, we could look at table 1 in our traffic study. We're talking on a peak hour basis, proposed 22 units. Not everybody leaves during the same hour in the morning, but industry data would say roughly 2 cars entering in the morning peak hour, only 6 exiting. During the afternoon peak hour, 8 entering vehicular trips and 5 exiting vehicular trips during the peak hour in the afternoon. It's just simply not a huge traffic generator development, this proposed residential development.
So you think a third of the cars are gonna be using, a third of the parking spots are gonna be using cars?
Parking doesn't equate to traffic, like I
Right,
said.
but I'm just saying it's about a third, right? So 2/3 of the lot will be full at any given time, is what you're.
That's not what we're saying. We're talking about just simply traffic entering and exiting the site. Doesn't correlate exactly to parking. So,
Well, if you have 22 spots and only 5 are entering, and 4 are leaving, that means you got 17 other spots of cars just sitting there, or non-used, right?
pretty much, that could be the case if someone leaves their car there and takes the train into Manhattan,
So your assumption
or works
is
from home.
2/3 of the units won't use their car on any given day.
That's what these statistical data would, I mean, that's not what we looked at specifically, but could be part of the underlying statistics.
Okay.
I wouldn't infer too much from that, but
Can you describe the thought process of how you envision pedestrian traffic to relate to this site? Residents, visitors to this facility?
I mean, people are going to walk. People walk. People are going to want to walk to and from this site. If you live here, you're going to want to walk downtown. You're going to want to walk to the Good Wife Shopping
How they
Plaza.
were gonna leave that, because I would imagine people that they might, if they are commuters or they wanna interact with downtown, not just the, Good Wife Shopping Center, how would they interact with the train station and
I think
getting into the post road from this site?
I think they would most likely walk on the sidewalk on Sedgwick, for example, to Route 1, Post Road, and then down to the train station.
Did you ever envision accommodating a pedestrian thoroughfare on the backside, the lower level area, where it's angled there in between the parking lot and, because that's how most people will kind of probably cut through to the train and cut through to the post road, you know.
Over
they
here?
can- The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You envision-
Along the site there, on the property line?
Yeah, do you ever accommodate like a pedestrian thoroughfare, pedestrian friendly, along that part of the property line?
We're not showing down the proposed site, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
You know, there is a sidewalk, that, if I'm not mistaken, also that goes down Old Kings Highway North. That would be a logical route as well. And, you know, anybody who were to just randomly not even be associated with the site, just park in the Mechanic Street lot,
Yep,
they don't have a sidewalk today, they just walk in the parking lot until they get to a walkway.
understood. But now you're gonna have 22 more apartments and people that live there. I didn't know if you were thinking about accommodating that flow.
We could look into it.
Okay.
Okay. You have more stuff to go?
So just, so I have a list of your comments here.
Well, I still have another question. You're not done yet, right?
Well, very close. Parking we looked at.
Trips,
Where's the next?
trip generations.
Where's the
Parking meets the regs, that's the end of the story there.
Where's the loading?
37.
Where's the loading? And the Amazon truck and the.
That's a very good question. And we picked that up as a comment from the police department as well. So we're gonna look into that and
I asked that same question 4 years ago.
I wasn't at the last
When it
hearing
first-
4 years
when it
ago.
First came up.
But we'll look into that.
So where's
And-
the moving van park?
We are looking
Move
into
van.
putting a parking loading spot on the site,
Why don't you bring it back?
somewhere appropriate. We haven't determined yet.
Where's the garbage?
There are other options too.
Where's garbage pickup?
On the floor plans.
Yeah, I don't have the floor plans on my
Architect.
slides, so the architect will look at that.
Okay.
So where, right now, there's no loading spot for me when I move into the building, right?
On site,
Correct.
I don't believe so.
And there's no spot for an Amazon truck or FedEx truck or a UPS truck to go to. What's the height of the, what's the height of the parking garage? Can an Amazon truck and FedEx truck come inside the building?
Architect,
Architect. will look at
architect's
that.
coming.
And just one thing that I
So we
would,
don't even know if a truck can fit in the building.
Architect.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it was
Depends on the height of it.
8 feet height. So obviously a box truck is not going to fit under the first floor.
Okay. So where are you thinking
They
now
seem-
where they're gonna park?
We got to talk about that
They
as a
seem
team
to have a
first.
way of pulling up alongside the curb no matter where they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the fact.
I'm not gonna let you design something that's illegal.
and just,
It doesn't mean it's illegal, it's just the way they do it.
We rerouted Maplewood to do it specifically for that one specific reason,
Okay.
right?
So,
We redid
in a-
Palmer's for that one specific reason. You were the lawyer on Palmer's. There's a
What's that?
parking loading dock on Heights Road.
Yeah,
We redid, yeah, it's not there anymore. We redid it.
Yeah.
Don't deny it. You were the lawyer that represented them.
I know, that's a whole different project. That's like.
It doesn't
mixed use
matter,
is
but
much
they
bigger.
still had it on the street, and we said no, and they moved it. You knew this question's
Sure.
coming.
Well,
Well,
this is the
that's
first
your
round of
answer?
the hearing. We're just
It is
getting,
not. We saw the same thing 3
we're
years
just getting
ago.
comments from
We saw the
the
same
peer
thing 3 years
reviewers
ago.
and-
So the same thing 3 years ago.
on this.
Yes.
wasn't
No,
wasn't
we
that
saw it
much.
as a pre-application 3 years ago, before they went to ARB.
Oh, I didn't do that. There was an application, but.
It was a
We'll
pre-application.
come back with something.
Okay.
So you had never thought about this?
thought
we
about
have,
it.
we
You've
have.
been working on it for 2 years.
Well,
Just as an aside, I used to work in the Houlihan Lawrence building, and I know during our office meetings, when there were a lot of agents that were coming to a meeting, there was zero accommodation for overflow into the parking lot next door, immediately to the left. Zero. So, I would encourage any, additional needs beyond the residents to be able to be accommodated on site.
Is there any agreement with a neighboring property about where to move the cars in the event of a flood? We sometimes see, I know we saw it with the YMCA and the church right up the street to be able to share parking in some sort of event. It seems obviously they're gonna have to move their cars somewhere, but Good Wives is even worse to park your car in a flood event. If this thing is gonna flood, the Good Wives
Good Wives flooded
is
too.
screwed. So where are they, and you can't put their car in the mechanics lot because that thing is flooded as well in your flood event. So where are they gonna put these cars, these 22 cars? Do we have, is there any
That's
type
a
of,
building management question, and somebody mentioned that in one of the peer reviews. Might have been, was it Rick Calamari?
I think it was Joe
I mean, these are, we're getting comments like last minute here, so we'll address that as well.
Let's continue the hearing.
yeah, we can go
No,
to.
trust me, this hearing will come up for more than one night.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it for me for now.
Just quickly, what would be helpful, and I know we talked about it a bit, but an actual count would be helpful to see if Sedgwick was the high volume route of travel or the spur of Old Kings Highway North was the high volume spur of travel. Because in my mind, I think you've got the entrance and the exit backwards.
Again, we could look at.
You should be exiting on Old Kings Highway.
I can tell you why the main reason why we decided to make it an exit to Old Sedgwick and entrance is because the queuing, if I'm not mistaken, is actually, let me double check. I think it's worse on Old Kings Highway.
No, it's everywhere. Making it left.
That was what
there
we
is gonna
found
be
in our
impossible.
counts.
Yes, that's why an actual count would be super helpful to us to understand.
3 vehicles.
You just said that when you found your
Hold on,
counts, you
hold
said
on.
you didn't do counts.
We did queuing counts. We didn't do turning movement counts at an intersection.
So you didn't put the rubber pipe in the road, the rubber tubes in the road, that stuff?
No, and oftentimes we could use state data because they do that. While I'm here, let me take a look. What did we find in the queuing count? Yeah, I think you're right. Queuing was, there was more queuing occurring on Sedgwick.
Sedgwick going eastbound.
Both ways.
Oh, yeah.
Probably going
Yeah, we
west.
go both.
Yeah, but more towards the Houlihan Lawrence, I would say. It gets bad over there.
The one
Wait,
thing
hold on.
about this is when something hiccups on the turnpike, then all bets are off.
Right, we counted this one day. In fact, we found queuing to be heaviest when there were 11 vehicles in the maximum. This wasn't on average during a whole hour, but maximum of 11 queued vehicles on Old Kings Highway North, which was actually more than Sedgwick at that time.
Wait, is that table 1B you're looking at, or no?
This is in our report appendix.
Doesn't say what road this is on. There you go, no, Old Kings Highway.
Oh yes, you're right.
North Avenue.
Table 1B. Table 1B. Queuing vehicle. Queuing along Old Kings Highway northbound.
Old Kings Highway,
On average, it wasn't terrible, but there was one long, very long queue.
so that's everybody going to the hockey rink.
Headed back
But
north.
that has
for
a
the
much
afternoon.
longer queuing area than Sedgwick does.
Yeah.
Old Kings Highway North, you could queue back all the way to the post road.
It's a one-way street.
I mean, queuing isn't really the issue, it's the number of trips.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the downtown area. There's going to be traffic.
But we understand.
When we look at
We're trying-
traffic impacts, again,
trying
I
to figure
circle
this-
back to the fact that it's just not going to be a whole lot of new traffic. And that's what a traffic impact study looks at.
But you're saying
Right.
a whole other new traffic from something that hasn't existed in 4 years. I'm sorry.
Right, and we're also.
Even if you
looking-
don't compare it to the bank, like I said, we're talking, what, 8 to 13 total trips during a peak hour, that's all we're talking about for new traffic compared to nothing out there now on the site. And when you look at compared to the bank, it's a net reduction in in site-generated traffic.
I cut you off.
Ben, you cut me off.
Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Cut everybody off.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I think we're looking at it from a safety standpoint, and you want to design a site in the safest means possible. And to me, taking a left across Old Kings Highway North is a lot safer than taking a left across Sedgwick, having done both in my time here in town. And I'm actually probably the one guy who drives southbound on Old Kings Highway North to cut through the parking lot to go get my haircut. So,
Which parking lot?
Mechanic
Mechanic
Street.
Street.
Oh, I do that too.
You go all the way out to the light and you go
Sure.
across the post
You come
road
out
and
next
you
to
take
the
a left
firehouse.
into Darien Barber Shop. But my point is, I think that's a much less traveled route than Sedgwick.
We'll take a look.
That'd be great.
Fair question, we'll take a look. So you, instead of circulation in one direction, you just reverse it. Yep. And loading, or unloading.
Mm-hmm.
Loading.
Loading and garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage is architect.
And I will ask the question again the next time we meet about getting comfortable around what happens if there are cars in that lower level when flood happens. So I'd love to see some effects of what, if
I
people
hate to
don't move their cars,
Hate
what's
to
gonna
say it
happen?
this way, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him move his car.
I understand, but if your
Yeah.
basis of your, flood storage is based entirely on something that may or may not happen, I think it's a relative data point.
Even if the car, even if it's full, and I suppose we could do the calculation, but even if it's full of cars, it's still more storage than you have now. Because there's space between the cars, there's space under the cars. You're talking the difference between a brick in a pail versus rocks in the same pail.
There's a way to do it with math.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
It's a math, 100% correct, it's a math calculation. It's 2,000 square feet times 4 feet deep of water, what the storage is,
How
it's
many
cubic feet.
cars, cubic feet of cars?
Correct,
Split
over
it?
38 places.
Yep.
George Riley, any questions, sir?
I think I'm okay. I was just thinking about an ambulance getting under the building, but that should be covered by an Amazon truck. And I suppose fire trucks don't go under burning buildings, so they probably don't have to get in there. So, no, I think.
But what might need to get in there is any maintenance envisioned around these underground Coltex that's envisioned there.
Is there an elevator in the building?
That's,
Yes.
So,
vehicles can do that, that's what they do. They get into parking garages for the same purpose.
And you're including this is a walkway, I guess. This is a travel path, right? Is what I'm looking at here. I'm not sure this is a
That's how it
traffic
is.
question.
It's a fire exit, basically.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a fire path out from the building to the public street.
Okay. Good.
More on that, I think Matt Parker's up next, and
Okay.
you'll see it on his, in a little better color. Anything else for
The
Neil?
last item is, we talk about this every once in a while, especially on this thing, because your biggest retail draw is across the street, what about pedestrian safety going from your building to Goodwives?
Well, there is a crosswalk there.
Right?
There's sidewalks. And we're actually adding another crosswalk, though it won't go directly to the plaza. But there's an existing crosswalk that we're just going to shift a bit north and restripe, so it'll be fresh, brand new, to get east-west.
Right, and then the purpose of the crosswalk going north-south across Sedgwick is for what? The people from Sedgwick Village to visit the people that live inside your building?
And if someone who lives in the building wants to just walk up that way and walk their dog, or they want to cross there to head to Route 1, Boston Post Road, instead of using the signal, just more options, the better. You think it makes sense? I mean, there's already pedestrian drop-down ramps, but no crosswalk.
So when you observed it, did you count people crossing the street at all?
We did not,
Okay.
There's nothing there.
but I
But
mean,
people walking their dog, they're still gonna walk across the
There-
street.
there could be-
exactly
there-
the same.
there's
I mean,
people there.
Someone that's living in Sedgwick Village,
in
is
fact,
either gonna visit
you know,
somebody in the new building, or they're gonna walk their dog. It's one or the other.
people are out there. I think there was a comment that, we're not gonna get a common response too much, but I think there was a public comment about walkability. This is only gonna make it better
Agreed.
and safer.
We're trying to make the town more walkable. I want to
Certainly.
be walkable and safe.
I mean, this is a downtown area. I mean, walking is probably the main priority here. Walking, walkability, and safety, at least in my opinion.
All right. And then we're gonna see Greg Ruff, W.
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, there we go.
Do you want to see him now or
No,
wait
see
until
him
the end
now
of their
before we-
presentation?
Wait till the end of the presentation.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Matt?
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Matthew Pop, Landscape Architect, Environmental Land Solutions. We prepared the landscape plan. Not to confuse you, it's basically flipped from the site plan. Sedgwick is on, not going to show up.
It's on the bottom.
Was it about to show up?
What's that? What are you trying to do?
You
Oh,
you
here,
see that? Oh,
here. Who's this?
okay, you see that, all right.
You see the little
Yep,
red dot there?
Yep,
They can see that on the screen.
okay. Sedgwick on the bottom, and Old Kings Highway on the, towards the left. Just a quick comment about the sidewalk. It's right through here for fire access, right through here. That's it. I prepared the landscape plan, just starting off with the existing conditions, not shown in this plan, but there's an existing tree right about here. It's a red maple that will come out. There's some utility lines overhead. That tree is basically into those lines, so it's been pruned back. So it's kind of one-sided. And when you get towards the back, there's three trees on the survey back through here that will be removed. The landscape plan will just start along Sedgwick, work our way clockwise. Basically, we have along the south, along the bottom face, and then on the left, we have inkberry, just an evergreen foundation shrub. We have a small shad right through here, which is kind of a multi-stem tree. Grows.
How tall, can you just give me an estimate as to how tall they get?
The shrubs will be, 3.5 by 3.5, or I would say 3 by 3. So somewhat low, evergreen. It's a native shrub. The shad right through here, probably 16, 18 feet in height, multi-stem, kind of upright, oval shaped. There's another one in the back through here. But those inkberry kind of wrap the site up through here. In the back, we have a narrow growing arborvitae. Probably grow maybe 20 feet in height or so by 3 feet wide.
That long.
That's right along the back here. In this corner of the site, we have an American holly, probably 8 feet wide by, it could be 30 feet in height or so right here. And we switch to, again, another type of arborvitae, again the same size, a little bit wider growing, these right here, than the ones on this side. There's just a little bit more space. Kind of in this corner back here, we have a bayberry, which is a native semi-deciduous shrub. It kind of loses its leaves late in the season. I would say maybe 8 by 8. And then kind of surrounding it is hydrangeas, 4 by 4, I would say, more or less. Coming on this side, we have a narrow strip of landscape area we're planting a switchgrass, about 3 feet height. So that's a native plant. And then down through here, it's a small holly, maybe about 6 feet in height. I think it's a Chesapeake holly. There are some existing trees along the perimeter right through here. It appears that those are maybe, just looking at the aerial photo or in a Google streetscape, they may be mostly Norway maples, which aren't native. There is an underground pipe back here. Otherwise, I would have had probably a larger growing tree in the back corner. For site lighting, have just wall-mounted fixtures. They're I think there's 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8. There's a symbol right here that shows it. This fixture, it's very, very low level lighting. I wanted it to spill a little bit onto the sidewalk. It's downward pointing, 3000 K, so it's got a warm tone to it. Typically don't use this fixture that often unless it's I want something just, again, very low and it's no spillage, out to the road or beyond that. I think that's it, if there's any questions.
I would like to just get, I know David Genevieve's trying to probably get a survey of what the trees are that are coming out.
Sure.
Because I'm looking at the survey that we have from the property that was done by Land Surveying Services. The trees don't show up on here. And then on yours, it doesn't show up on here.
I could show them on my plan and then highlight them.
Usually we put a
Yep.
circle on them and X on it, so this one's
Yeah,
going down.
but it'd probably be like a dark blue, so they would show up. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Because just looking at the aerial, there's 3 or 4 along Old Kings Highway, and then what do you do with the ones that between you and 800 Post Road?
Over here.
Yeah, are they coming out? And you
No,
replace yours?
they would stay. Those aren't ours, so those would stay in place.
So you're putting your bushes underneath their trees?
Yeah, the existing curb is almost at the edge of the sidewalk, right through here.
Right, and they got
So-
trees along. They have trees along.
In the back, yes. So imagine that when this sidewalk goes in, there'll be some disturbance. We just want to make sure that we fill in that gap.
Okay,
So-
you're not going to kill their trees, are you?
No, again, it's, we're only putting in just a sidewalk right in that area, and it is, the asphalt line goes almost right up to that, right up to the edge of the sidewalk here.
Right.
So we're only really disturbing the kind of our asphalt area.
But so you're putting your bushes underneath their trees,
Um,
so they're going to be shaded, right?
Yeah, but they'll survive those right there. Again, they're not that tall.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
I
on.
mean, you've been here 1,000 times,
Yeah.
Matt. It's,
Yeah.
I kind of trust you, but
Yeah. But we could check
you're
into
looking
that.
at
though.
two different. You're looking at you're putting brand new bushes underneath.
Yeah, but these,
existing
again,
trees.
they're not. They go in at 3 to, I think they're 3 feet high, so they're not large trees that we're putting in underneath the existing trees. So, but we'll look into that, and I do have those trees that are off-site on the survey. I'm looking at some that shows those.
Not your survey, right? A different survey?
Um,
Because the only one you have on here is
I don't know.
you're keeping it.
I have an old survey that's in the file, but I'm looking at, and I'll make sure those trees are on.
Okay.
So it shows, maybe like 7 or 8 trees from here back through here.
Right. And then what about the ones on the top side?
And right here, there's shows 3 trees, 4 trees back through here, and then 1 tree right about here on the property line.
Okay.
So-
Because the David Genevieve's got all messed up with the tree warden on Corbin.
So,
We must have missed that one, but let's not miss it again.
okay.
George, any questions, sir?
No, sir.
Good.
You have questions. In my mind, I'm equating visually Pemberton 16 in that it's got a parking structure underneath, and then apartments, 2 layers of apartments, and very little buffer from the building to property lines. And then the afterthought of trying to throw in some softening of trees that around that. And did ARB make any commentary about looking to try to have more softening with larger scale trees around?
What we could look at, maybe putting something out in the front out here, taller in the.
You know that.
So-
They're going to want you to change colors and make one green, one pink.
Oh,
one
absolutely,
blue.
yeah. So,
They did it to BMW, they might as well do it to you too.
I was just curious if that was is this the first time anybody has reviewed the landscape plan?
I've
As
never seen it.
ARB
No.
reviewed this?
We're just building.
Is this going back to
yeah,
ARB?
yeah.
We need a report from ARB.
So-
Darian's never approved the project without ARB's approval.
So Fred, are we relying
You
on the
have.
whole report from
You
ARB?
have. Rare, but you have.
Like
Not
I
me, I've been
previously
here 10
said,
years,
last
bud.
time around, they did not get a positive report from the ARB. The commission can certainly make the recommendation that they go back before the ARB and work with that board to procure a positive recommendation.
Perfect. Because they have a new landscape person on their board too.
So do we have that report?
Thank you.
Anything else for Matt?
I think we're good for now. He's gonna
We
come
may
back.
need to move that report from the architectural review board from last time around into the record.
Put it in the record.
Yeah, we'll do it.
We'll get that to the committee, we'll put it in the file and give it to the commission.
Perfect.
Thank
And
you.
that's, what's the date of that thing, you think?
Do you remember the date, Bob, in 2022?
I'll call you tomorrow. I'll dig it out. It was a while ago.
I watched the hearing on TV, I know that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark, Andre is on his way up. You want to use this for the, because I got that little red thing here, if you want to use this.
But the architect.
How do I get?
Man, with all the answers.
All right. I don't know if I'm the man with all the answers though, but I'll try my best.
Thank you.
A lot has been deferred to you.
Yeah, you guys can lead me to the water source and help me drink. So, all right. My name is Mark Andre. I'm a licensed architect. I practice architecture out of Fairfield, Connecticut. I am the project architect. I'm gonna give you guys a quick run through how do you navigate from, how do you get into the building. And then at the end, I'll be happy to take any questions that you have.
Now, as a threshold question, you came in front of us as a pre-application like 3 years ago. Has
That
much
should be
changed
about
since
right.
then?
We made several revisions to this project architecturally, and this is the final version. We did not go back to the architectural board.
Okay.
So.
Then that's the one, it was a pre-application from it, that's when it's 3 years ago. It's nothing to do with the prior application. That's the meeting I'm
So,
talking about.
we had an informal meeting with the architectural review board. We had a very different design. We took their input, then we came back and we incorporated a lot of their inputs into our design. Then we had a what you might call more like a formal meeting with them.
Okay.
And then that did not go too well, but we still took into account some of their inputs, and they're being incorporated in this building. Otherwise, we decided not to go back to show them what you have right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
And that's where I would leave it.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, without telling you guys everything else that Bob said about the building, basically, this is a view from the traffic circle. In this ground floor, essentially, when you come in down to Sedgwick Avenue, this will be our main entrance. You come in into this airlock. This is the main lobby that give you access to 2 elevators, give you access to a staircase, and then give you also access to the other part of the parking garage. So this is an access point to this portion of the parking garage. This is another access point, another access point. So there are 3 access points into the parking garage. So from this lobby, you can either use the elevator or the staircase, and that will take you to the upper floors. At the ground level, or the parking garage level, we have 1 enclosed area here, the staircases, the elevator lobby areas. Elevators per FEMA will have a float switch, so if during a flood event, the elevator cab will not go down below the base flood elevation.
Do you have hydraulic elevators?
we haven't made any decision yet on what kind of elevator will be installed.
So if it's.
But regardless, it's electronic switch. So basically in the pit, so if it floods, and then that switch will prevent the elevator, if you call it, it will not go down.
Right.
It kills it, essentially.
So you don't know if it's hydraulic or electric?
We haven't selected what kind of elevator yet.
Okay. But isn't that gonna change the roof if you do one or the other? And change the pit for flooding?
Well, regardless, it doesn't really matter. You're still gonna need the pit.
Okay.
So if you have an hydraulic, so you have the pit where the pistons go down.
Correct.
Right. So you still have a pit.
Yep.
Right? Then with that electric is deep of a pit? I don't wanna get too deep.
I'm not sure, but if you want the detail, would you like us to select the
I
elevator?
mean, I'm just concerned about the flooding in the pit, and then on the roof, which you're gonna get into, you got all kinds of amenities up on the roof, so then you have to have, the pulling to go up to the roof. That's the difference. See, it's good. The elevator's gonna go up to the roof, right?
Correct.
So it's gonna have 4 buttons on it. Okay. That's gonna affect the height of the building.
Currently, we're proposing it to go all the way up to the rooftop.
Okay. And if it's
So that's not gonna change whether it's an hydraulic or some other type of elevator.
But if it's electric, don't you have to have the cables on top of the top of the cab that's on top of the roof? So it makes it taller?
Yeah.
So currently, whether it's an hydraulic or cable elevator,
Right?
we still have the overrun, and it takes you all the way up to the top of the roof. That will not change.
100% agreed. But if I have a cable pulley on top of the cab, on top of the roof, it makes the building taller.
All right, what about I get back to you on that? So we can give you an exact measurement, whether it's hydraulic or cable-driven elevator.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Great.
And then this is another staircase with a small lobby that also gives us access to the parking garage and then access to the sidewalk. And from here, you can go across to the Good Wife Shopping Center. And then this area here, that's where we propose to have our trash collectors with a bunch of wall outs. All these enclosed areas, they all flood compliant. At the very least, some of them have 2 flood vents remotely located. These flood vents are engineered flood vent, and each one provide a minimum 200 square foot of hydrostatic release pressure. I think there seems to be a confusion that 8 by 16 is I think it's like 256 square inch. I think that was a calculation someone mentioned. That is not quite correct. 128, sorry. So those flood vents are engineered product. So you don't count the area, the width and the height, and that doesn't translate into square inches.
Okay.
And then from this level, that would take you to the upper floors. Each floor, they're basically identical. Let's see if I can get to that.
Well, before you leave the garage, there was a question about the height of the garage
So we have, it's about 10 foot floor to floor, measuring from the lobby floor to the upper floor of the apartment. So since we haven't done all the structural engineering, so if I were to guess, we might have about 2 foot of structure, between 6 inches of concrete decking, maybe a steel beam, something like that. It's all depend how we engineer it. It could be engineered with about 10 to 12 inch of thick 2-way concrete slab, and then the columns will have capital. That will increase the headroom in the parking garage.
So is there room for an emergency vehicle to access the parking garage?
Emergency vehicle in terms of fire trucks?
Or an ambulance?
Fire truck would not go under the building.
No.
An ambulance?
I'm not sure an ambulance will go under the building, but I can look into that. I do not know the policy as far as what Amazon trucks allowed to do, whether they allowed to enter the building or not.
There's no doors on the garage, right? It's just
Correct,
open?
there's no door, completely open.
But the inside doors, there'll be some sort of security system, right?
All the doors will have a key fobs. The first set of doors into the airlocks, that could have a key fob or not. If we decided not to have it, that will allow the Amazon person or the UPS person to drop off packages in the first airlock. All the mail boxes are actually located on the outside. They're built in. As you pull in, right at this entrance by the steps, there's a pocket there. These are built-in mailboxes. So you actually, the mailboxes are not located in the lobby. They're outside the building.
They're in the garage. So Amazon's gonna leave
Right here.
packages in the garage.
So this little pocket here,
I can't,
these are,
we can't see.
Can you do that? It's not your little.
is any,
Bob, can you help me with your little laser thing?
yeah, I'm trying, is any way we can,
Nope, on again.
At it.
yeah, I'm trying to see if we can zoom in right
Oh,
here.
you want to zoom?
Yes.
Oh, we'll take care of that right here. So you want
Just in this little area.
here?
Yes. Okay. So this little pocket here, these were all the mailboxes for all the units. That's built in.
Do it with the red thing, you lost me.
Right here. Oops, sorry. How do you do the red
Ah,
thing,
yeah, I
Bob?
don't
No,
think
Bob,
you
the
can do
red,
that.
the red thing you got. You do it real good.
Okay,
Yeah, this,
Maybe it doesn't work when you zoom.
yeah.
let's do it this way.
Yeah.
Go unzoom it.
We're talking about the mailboxes?
Sure. Steps, ramp coming up. This pocket here was it, these are the mailboxes. They're built in the part of the wall.
They're outside in the elements.
They're outside. So this is outside. If you stand in here, you're outside.
So presumably Amazon will drop the packages right there, where the mailboxes are, right?
Well, no. We would assume in the airlock, that's where they will drop off the packages. This could be secure or just this set of doors. This could be,
Well, they can't drop them in if those outer doors are secured, right? First doors.
if these doors are secured, then they won't be able to.
Packages are outside.
Yeah. So I think this is probably something more with management. Do we want them to have access to this airlock, which wouldn't be a bad idea. So I would have all of these with key fobs to provide secure access, all these access points. And then this one, I would just leave it, so, yeah. Or you could set it up where maybe during the day, at a certain time, these are automatically locked. So there will be no, you have restricted access.
Is there an intercom system you're planning on this building too?
That's,
We haven't got that far yet, but I guess we could. Yeah, so to buzz someone else?
Yeah.
I would assume that would be typical.
Right.
Okay. I don't want to go into a lot of details when it comes to the flood vent, but when you look at all these airlocks, so these flood vents are opposite of each other, right? The lobby, so basically in the flood event, you get water coming in this way, these flood vents will open automatically, and then on the other side will be the same, and then that will equalize the pressure, okay? So same thing here, in these staircases, here, in this garbage area, same setup.
so before we get too far, what's the use of that lobby?
So what we're trying to do is basically try to create another glorified entrance to kind of drive pedestrian traffic towards the Good Wife Shopping Center. So if you go there, if you're one of the residents, you can either use the lobby, the elevator coming down this way, or if you use the staircase, you can go down this way and then use the crosswalk, use the shopping center, and then come back this way.
So you think people are gonna walk down the stairs and then go to Good Wives?
Or you can go across, then you can come up this way and then go across the parking garage.
They want
then
to
enter
use
the
an
lobby.
elevator, because they
Yeah,
want the
so-
bags, they would.
You have multiple ways to get to the upper floor.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're able-bodied, you want to use the staircase, fine.
Yeah.
If you bring in a lot of groceries, then you can come across and then use the elevator.
Okay. Then you said a minute ago that it's basically 10-foot slab to slab, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
But measuring from the lobby is our reference point.
Right. but
Because the parking garage slopes, so this is the highest part of the parking garage, this is the lower section on Kings Highway.
Okay,
So we have a little bit more headroom there.
okay, so can you go back to this page?
Sure.
The covers, Steve? This one? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if, I don't know what the sequence of your presentation is, but we're still on the ground floor. So the entrance going into it, which is right there, you can move the little red cursor where the driveway is?
Yep.
No, the entrance into it, the one-way in.
It's to the right, right?
So,
The question's gonna land on me, no, that's the exit.
no, the one-way in is right here.
Correct, that's what I'm talking about. So what we're trying to figure out, what's the height of that opening? So that might be a homework assignment. Because it's 10-foot slab to slab, is what we said, right?
Yeah,
And then
10-foot slab to
two
slab.
drop- drop
I
down.
believe there's about a 2-foot grade elevation difference between the grade at Sedgwick Ave and at the entrance at Kings Highway.
So that might be as tall as 12 feet.
That could be, but we haven't taken into account, the structural component.
That's fine,
Yeah.
when you come back next time, just,
So I'm trying to figure out, are you trying to figure out whether we'd be able to get a truck under the building?
correct. I mean, that's gonna land up, your package room or your refuse room is right inside that door, right?
It is.
So the garbage truck's going going there.
I can, at the next meeting, I can give you a height.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at page
Sure.
2. Everything happens in that corner.
Yeah, I can give you a height.
But he's gotta get out the other side.
Where he's gotta be
You
able
can't,
to
they're not gonna get out the
pull
other
in
side.
off
They're
the
gonna back in
traffic
right
off the
there.
road and have a
Right,
way.
because we still gotta figure out where the loading spot's gonna be.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Jerry, I have a question for you. Do we have anything required in our regulation about the amount of garbage for the number of units? It just seems to me with garbage and recycling, having 6 garbage cans and 4 recycling might be kind of small for this number of units.
We don't have anything per se. What you would do in a case like that is just have more frequent pickup.
Okay.
Instead of once a week, it
So
might be
it's not like
once a day.
there's some minimum cubic feet of garbage storage we need to have, but they
I
might be
can check with
doing
the
it.
health department on that, but I think what it would do is just ramp up the number of pickups.
Yeah, because it seems like it's not a lot of garbage for a lot of units.
Because, I mean, look at,
at the discretion of the commission.
right, but look at
Right,
Palmer's.
special permit.
Palmer's has got 3 garbage bins, sections, and they got 65 units,
We have more than
Federal.
6.
right?
Well,
No,
tell you what,
Palmer's has got 3 separate locations on their site.
No, I'm saying,
Palmer's doesn't have anything up there anymore.
What?
Palmer's doesn't have anything up there anymore. We will,
Like John
we'll
Vicaro's
give you some
project,
details
Drain
on
Crossing,
the trash and recycle, how that's gonna be managed.
right?
We did that in Norotan Heights, so I know what you're looking
There is no
for.
Norton Heights, it's either Norton Crossing or it's Darien Commons. What are you talking about?
No, Norotan Heights is an area of town.
Yeah, I called it Palmer's, now you're calling it Norton Heights.
Okay. We'll get it
It's not
for
a
you.
game, Tom. You're trying to figure out the answer to the question.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, we're gonna get it for you.
Palmer's has got 3 garbage sections for 65 units.
Yeah.
This has got
Right.
1.
One
For
for 22,
22.
so there you are, it's proportional.
I would assume we all set, unless you guys have any.
No, keep going, you're fine. We were getting into the parking before we switched, and I wanted to make sure we got that.
Okay, so we have more than 6 rollouts. Just wanted,
Okay, here, here's
Okay.
the floor plan,
there we go.
first level.
So I call the upper floor the first floor,
Okay.
and the parking level the ground floor.
Yep.
This
is
was,
magnified, so why don't you
Yeah.
just go up and point?
okay. This unit is basically the same as the upper floor. The difference between the first floor and the
Can you
second
hear
floor.
that? Can you hear that?
These microphones pick everything up.
Even him?
Everything's
Okay.
around you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We have a small gym in the upper floor.
So the leasing office is on this floor.
Correct.
And where's the
So this is the leasing office. So when you come up
rental?
through the elevator or either the staircase, you wrap around, so this will be the leasing office. So there's another one staircase. These are your main means of egress, and then we have 2 big elevators right here.
Do you plan on having somebody in the leasing office during business hours?
I would assume
So where are they parking?
we have 1 parking space for the person in the leasing office.
Okay. That's included in the 38 spots?
So 37 is required for the tenants and
One
one for the
extra
leasing
for that guy,
person.
woman, or whoever.
Whoever.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the upper floor, Bob, please. I don't really need to go over all the makeups. I mean, we have a series of studios, 1 bedroom. And then the footprint of the leasing office from the upper floor becomes a small gym with skylight above. Then, next floor plan. And what we hope to do with the rooftop, about 1/3 of it will be dedicated for landscape area, entertainment area for our tenants. You know, where we have some seating areas, for reading areas. You know, we have a series of benches and outdoor areas, barbecue areas. And then we have this little pool area, that's where that endless pool that Bob was referring to. That's only suited for 1 person. You cannot have 2 people swimming there. You actually swim against the current. That's what that pool is for.
This would be our first rooftop pool in town?
Believe so. I think it might be.
Okay. What about barbecues? When we did that for 19 Old Kings Highway, we specifically did not put barbecues up in the roof.
Yeah, Federal's Realties are on, what, the 2nd floor, right outside that common area,
Great.
balcony. We can check with the fire marshal on that.
Okay.
We reviewed this with the fire marshal
Okay.
to determine the occupant load. That did not seem to be an issue with the fire marshal, as far as whether we have a barbecue up there or not. We also have fire pits, so that's no different than the.
Red stamp, pipe, verify adequate water supply.
Mark, there's your,
Provides fire record.
occupancy.
Yeah, it's the one.
All ingress. Egress. Okay.
So some of the early comment related to the occupancy load, so we had meeting, my office and the fire marshal, and then we came up with the multipliers, the standard that will apply to our project. And this is the breakdown for all of it, for all of the areas. And that's how we came up. If you saw that 315-person occupant load
Yep.
in the fire marshal report, that's where that came from. And I think with that, and then the remaining areas will be used for mechanical equipment, solar panel installation. And I think with that, that will be it for us, unless you guys have any additional questions.
Do you have the answer for this one? It says, with proposed occupancy load of 350 feet for the roof, where will vehicles park so as to not obstruct emergency access?
So, the parking counts, so the occupancy load, you do the occupancy load to determine number of egress. That's the relationship between number of exit and the occupancy load. I don't see any part in the zoning regulation that relate parking count with occupancy load. We provide the adequate parking based on the use of the building, not occupancy.
Well, he's asking about obstructing emergency access. Where will vehicles park so as not to obstruct emergency access?
Yeah, but you mix in the 2 standard here.
I'm just reading it sentence.
We got that, but that's
Mixing anything.
yeah, but that's more like a safety issue. It has nothing to do with parking requirement, though.
This
We
is,
met the building will be fully sprinklered. Based on our occupancy load, we only require to have 2 means of egress, not 3, not 4, only 2. We
That's
move.
what I'm saying. I'm just reading it.
What
it
I'm
doesn't
saying-
mean you're gonna have 350 some cars there.
I'm just reading his
He's
question.
just
that's
reading
all.
the report.
Right,
No, I got it, I
right.
got it.
Comments from the fire marshal.
Correct. We try to address that. So these 2, the parking count, the parking requirement, requirement and the occupancy load, they're not correlated.
All right, so the answer to this
His comment's
question
not
is...
even related to those.
This
That
question-
comment doesn't relate to that.
But this means, the answer to this question is, I don't know.
Well, you would have to clarify. We don't have the answer for it.
But
Or at least as an architect, I don't.
That might be a question for Mr. Del Rio.
On the roof, these are wood slats, that's gonna be the
Oh,
base that they're walking
he's-
around on?
Yeah, so we were
Like
thinking
wood
of...
paneling kind of thing?
Yeah, we're
That would-
thinking like different finishes to make it, to soften the areas, you know, try to delineate, you know, where would you sit for benches. So obviously, if we go forward with this project and we decide to build this thing, so we'll have more detailed, you know, what kind of materials we're gonna put there. Obviously, they'll have to be more durable type material. But we don't want it to be we don't want it all uniform, obviously.
Yeah. Question for Jeremy, only because it came up in an apartment I owned in the city. When you have noises on the roof over a certain decibel level, for the units on the floor directly below it, there's usually some sort of regulation that the roof noise from either AC units, which was what it was in our case, were too loud because they weren't on mounts or platforms or whatever. And so the building had to lift them all up. So are we taking into account that same volume? Because this is gonna be a heavy use roof, right? If you're living in this building from May, it's a pretty nice roof, right? So if once the weather gets nice, this thing is gonna have a lot of people on it almost every night. So is there any consideration for the apartments directly below it in terms of like sound dampening or sound levels as to expected
All of that
volume?
all of that would be taken care of, yes. I
Okay.
mean, you have to assume,
Right, I mean, you have a
you're familiar
pool,
in the city.
you have a pool up here, yeah, I mean, I'm not
Well,
talking the ambient noise, I'm just saying,
right.
there's gonna be a lot of people walking
Like
around.
traffic,
You don't wanna
yeah.
have somebody, you don't wanna hear them walking around on top of your house at 8, 9 o'clock on a Saturday if you've got two kids.
There will be
living underneath it.
isolation, but no, that would not be an issue.
Okay.
Otherwise, the project will fail, because then we want, either we'll have the tenant or we're not gonna have the outdoor space.
Yeah,
And we think those two will complement each other. So if I were to live there, I would enjoy being at the rooftop, you know, to use the outdoor, whether it's to sit for reading or enjoy my time with friends and family.
yeah, it's a nice roof.
Anything else for Mark?
Just give me the heights of the, well, there's
Okay.
a lot of landscaping up there. Matt Pop just gave us a lot of overview on his landscaping plan. Can you do that with this? Like,
Sure.
yeah, it looks like there's more on the roof than Matt Pop's got on the ground floor. You jealous?
Think
He's
so.
jealous.
We'll
I
get
mean,
it.
like
We'll
heights
get-
and number
we'll
of
get it for
bushes
you.
and,
We'll
Oh,
get it.
yeah,
we did the same thing with Federal, that to put bushes on top of the roof.
we certainly can take our initial concept, hand it over to Matt, and then he's the expert and, you know, he's a landscape architect. I'm not a landscape architect. As an architect, I can provide a lot of good concept, but as far as specification, what type of species and would work there.
I'm more concerned with the height of them.
The height meaning what? Whether we have raised beds and things like that?
Right.
Yeah, I think that would have to do with the type of construction, whether you have bushes or trees.
Okay.
The minimum planting.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we can provide that too. I'm sure Matt can give us some detail for that.
Okay.
Jeremy, does that factor into maximum height?
No, what we would say is, in fact, if you look at the sketch, that looks like a parapet, that would be exempt. But what factors into the height is the height of the flat roof. If it's a flat roof building, you measure from the highest peak, which is the whole flat roof. So if you're putting plantings on it, it wouldn't
It doesn't increase.
affect the height.
Is the pool above ground? Right, it's not, it's not
The pool will be above the deck.
above
There are
it,
a few steps.
couple steps up in.
If you wanna go back to that side. Yeah, there are a few steps
It's
above.
not level to the deck where it's, because it looks
No.
like there's an apartment underneath it, that's all.
No, you can't, because the endless pool, imagine is like a hot tub.
Yeah, I know, I get what it is. It's
Right.
like a lap pool, basically.
So, so if you imagine that hot tub, that says,
Yeah, that's how high,
High, so
that's why I'm
we-
just making sure. It's gonna be
Yeah,
off
we-
the ground, a couple steps
Correct.
up type
Yeah.
thing.
so
Yeah, the
that's,
steps are there.
yeah, so that's why we have these little steps coming up, and then this is the pool, and then we have these little lounging area around it.
Okay. With regards to this, at 34 Old Kings Highway for Baywater Properties, they can't use the entire roof. It's smaller. What was the regulation on that? there's a section roof you can't use, because it's not all usable.
It
This
is.
isn't all usable either because of the solar panels, but is there a ratio that we used?
At 34, there's public plaza space.
That's in the front of the building,
That's right.
it's not on the roof.
But 2 times the public plaza space
I'm talking about the roof, Bob.
is, I know that, but 2.5 times the plaza space is the additional area that you get on the 3rd level under the regulations that that building was built under.
Okay.
You know, here we're dealing with the other, the
So you're trying to
incentive.
tell me the public plaza for 34 Old Kings Highway is up on the roof?
No.
No, it's in front of the building, but
I
when
know
you
that.
dedicate public
2.5 times the
plaza,
Public plaza space is what roof area you can use.
you get additional upper level, 2.5 times the area of the plaza space. That's the way that building was built, but it's all commercial.
Okay.
This is,
I'll have
Incentive-
Jeremy get the.
yeah,
answer
this
to
is
question.
the inclusionary zoning incentive, which is a different way to look at it. Okay.
If I may, there must be a fence around this roof. How tall is the fence?
In the parapet?
No, the boundary, whatever structure it is you have as the boundary for the roof, so that people don't
Kids
fall
don't run
off.
off it.
Well,
That'd be some
because-
safety thing, right?
So if you
You
go
got-
to the
you got a
record, I'll
pool,
call
you
it
got
the
a
roof
fence.
parapet. That's
Yeah.
minimum has to be 42 inches.
42 inches.
Is that included?
That's
Yeah,
the
but
pool,
that's,
Jeremy?
the
But that's-
intent, George,
yeah.
is so that you can't come from off the property into the property where there's a pool. I don't know how that would work out here,
The pool is
because,
further in though.
Doesn't matter. You gotta put a fence around your yard. Get
So
pool.
you would fence all of this,
Yeah,
but the parapet is over here.
yeah.
that's
That parapet is, at the minimum, has to be 42 inches.
all around the building.
Correct.
We'll work
42
it,
inches.
we'll
The roof
get an
parapet.
answer from the building department, because that's really who controls it.
And from what? Because
That
I
would
can
be,
imagine that you're gonna have to build some
Platform.
structure, platform, 42 inches,
that's part of the.
less than
that-
4 feet, sounds like somebody could figure it out.
Well, we can make it 48 inches, there's no restriction.
I-
The minimum is
not-
42, but doesn't mean we can't make it 48.
I'm not suggesting any number, but I would be very
So-
careful about that.
So if,
I think it's more. I think it's more at the bottom of this diagram. Like, because the solar panels, nobody's going off that. But if you were to zoom, Bob, if you can move it.
Yeah,
up.
where your hand is.
even from the planting beds?
There, that
Public
right
spaces,
there.
yeah.
If that's if I think what George's question is, if you're at 42 inches and the platform itself, let's say, is 6 to 10 inches off the ground,
Which platform are we referring to?
the wooden deck right there that people are walking on,
The decking.
the decking.
The
That's not
decking
gonna,
is not 42 inches above.
no, but it's
No.
going to be some level above it, right?
Yeah.
6 inches.
That's
That.
what I
This
think.
decking, George,
Sure,
and then here,
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah.
particularly what's ever near the.
Okay, so
the
That's gonna be
shrubbery and
6
terrace.
inches off.
Down the bottom, Bob.
Down the bottom. That decking is going to be 6 or
This
so.
right here. This is 6 inches over.
Oh, I get your point.
So if you're what we're saying is you're 42, the decking is 6 inches off the roof. You're really
Right,
only at 36.
So-
It's 3 feet.
Right, so what we would need to do is provide the detail, because we provide in the planting bed at the perimeter. So once we establish the minimum
Yeah.
soil depth we need,
Exactly.
from that
Safety
surface, that's
level
when
from
you would
that
need your
point.
42 inches.
Yep.
That's the way it's computed.
With pool fences, the intent is to prevent young children from stepping over or climbing over them.
Well, I'm more
So
concerned
it's-
about young children just falling off the building and not
Well,
going
that's a
into the
different,
pool.
that's a
Right,
totally
so-
different
I would,
thing.
this is the way I would like to put it to bed. Unless the building, the parapet, the building height is measured to the parapet, this is the way we will resolve this. If we need 6 to 12 inches of soil for the planting bed,
And it
from that
captures-
surface, you need a minimum 42 inches. That's code. So if we decide to make it 48, it could be 48. But the exterior detail that we showed of the building with the parapet detail, that's what we're gonna have.
Okay.
And if we don't do any of that, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, let me ask, that thing right there in the corner, what is that? Is that a table? I can't read that.
This area here?
Yeah,
Oh, there's couches and a fire pit.
right, so it's a fire pit. What's the one?
Fire pit, seating area. This is just
Pergola.
a pergola. This is the barbecue. This is a dining area. This is a fire pit with benches. This is all benches.
All right, I'm just trying to figure out the occupancy up here. You got the table and chairs in the middle is 10 people. Then the bar's got 4 bar chairs. Then we got 1, 2, 3 fire pits.
One here, one here, and one here.
3 fire pits. Okay, and then
He had it earlier, showed the map.
Yeah, we
that he had
have the
done.
map earlier on.
Yeah, he had
If you
showed the
like to
map
go.
earlier that
What,
got to
this?
314,
Yeah.
would you say?
That's,
But real life usage is probably gonna be much lower than that.
Yeah,
Like
I would
probably
think so.
at any given time, maybe 50,
Yeah.
60 people.
oh,
Oh, there it is.
So he's
Right.
saying, per living
No, I
foot.
got it,
Yeah,
I got it.
yeah.
I mean, one thing about this is
So
it's
the-
got 24 persons in the solar panels. I can't imagine that happening.
But that's
But
what we
that's-
decided with the fire marshal.
Okay, that's fine. But the question that I would like to know, when my kid is sitting at that fire pit,
Yes.
right, and the wall to jump over to go into underground, how high that is? That's what
So-
I care about.
So
So if it's 42 minus,
no, it's going to be 42 from the surface of the planting bed.
From the finished surface.
Finished.
It has to be by code.
It has to be finished.
okay, and so the planting bed
If the
is,
planting bed is 18 inches, it's going to be 18 inches plus 42 inches.
okay. So that
We'll
makes,
get you,
that makes the
Parapet.
parapet 18 plus 48, or 18 plus 48, that makes it 60.
Well, I didn't say it's 18, but if that's the case, yes, that will be accurate.
we'll get you
And that
specific
is the
numbers.
measurement to the height, that's the height of the
No,
building?
the depth,
Well, do you have to measure to the top of the parapet or no?
no.
Our code would require us to measure to the flat roof.
The flat roof.
Okay.
I'm more concerned, if you look at Walgreens,
Right,
there,
you want to
theirs
be
is
able
higher.
to screen the mechanicals on the roof, you'll screen part of the solar panels and the safety factor.
Correct.
So if you have the mechanicals being on the roof will be, they're not gonna be, so as Mark shows it, they're gonna be up a little bit and they're only 3 feet high, so the parapets will block almost the entire view of the mechanicals. And similarly, most of the view of the solar panels.
Correct.
Just one more. It looks like the utility solar panel area and storage is all walled off, right? Or fenced off.
Correct.
I didn't see any like gates or anything to access like service on here. Where how would you get to service?
So we would have a gate here and then another one here.
Okay, so gotcha. So that's where the 2 gates are.
Yes. But from here, we're not providing access to this area, but we could. But from this gate, you would have access to, the pool equipment. There's a set of condensing units in here.
Do we need to have access to the solar panels for maintenance?
Now you will go from here.
Oh, from down there, just
Yes.
walk all the way around.
Yeah. And then here we have like furniture storage.
Yeah, so there'll be a gate somewhere at the end of that walkway at the bottom.
Because from here you can have clear access. But we can provide multiple, it's not an issue.
Is there a generator involved in this structure?
Yeah, there.
Backup generator.
Where is that?
Corner of the pool, right up there.
Oh, I see
sorry.
down there.
Yep, right here. That's why we have so much space between.
Okay.
That's a backup generator that serves what? The
That would be for the elevators and then common hallway lighting.
so light safety.
Yeah. And then the condensing unit, we have 3 areas. One here, and then one here.
You haven't sized the generator yet, then, right?
Not yet.
Probably gonna be gas.
Most likely, yes.
Okay.
And how dependent do you expect to be on the solar panels?
I think some of the issue with the solar panel is basically they would only have to provide electricity only for the building owner, basically, not necessarily for the tenants. But I'm not sure yet. I think that's the way it works.
So he could potentially just sell that back to the grid, and none of the tenants would see any savings from that. on their
I
Eversource
think
bill.
the issue is with the utilities company. So,
Yeah, we had solar panels on top of the Royal. I think it just does common areas.
yeah, it's the common area for building maintenance, the common areas, just for the building owners, not for the actual tenants.
Sort of the same as the generator, though.
Well, the generators provide power backup for the 2 elevators and the common areas, meaning like hallways and, some emergency light in the parking garages. That would be stuff like that. So this way people can easily get in and out. The emergency light, but that would not provide lighting and electricity in each unit.
Gotcha.
You can't run your dryer on it.
Right. Yeah, that's not the purpose for that, yeah.
And Jeremy, how do we handle elevators on top of roofs on the chimneys relative to the height of the building? Is that architectural details and architectural?
We'd have to look at section of the regs in the 300s to see how the elevator shafts, I think they're exempt, but we'd have to take a look. I don't know if that,
But it's not a
Mark
shaft,
has a,
it's an elevator cab, the same way,
yeah,
if
Mark has a detail, we'll take a look at the detail.
okay. Does the elevator go up to the roof at 34 Corbin?
Yes.
Okay.
One more, just,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sure that there is. I assume there's lighting on the roof itself, right, in places?
There will be.
Okay. Can we-
More like ambient, landscape lighting.
Is there gonna be like emergency lighting or lampposts or something to illuminate it in some way? Or is it just gonna be around the edge, some hot
I'm
lights?
thinking more like low lighting. I don't envision like lampposts.
Is that a safety issue that we need to have emergency lighting up there?
I would imagine we'll need to provide emergency lighting.
Yeah. So we'll need a detail on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we don't envision it will be a lamppost.
Again, a lot of these
Well, I'm
details
saying
will
something,
usually
you
be
know.
dealt with at the architecture review board level.
Great. That's their job.
Lighting, landscaping, look at the building.
So are we gonna get a landscaping plan for the roof for Mount Pop? Okay. So that's gonna have lighting in it too? Okay. Right?
Yes.
He works for you, right?
No, we work for him. If he doesn't like this, we can modify it. So it's not cast in stone. This
No, I
is
get
just
it.
a broad vision.
Concept. Okay. You got all your questions, Ray?
Yes, sir, thank you.
You're good?
Yeah.
You're good? Okay, next.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And then just get the
I'll
date
just
of-
go over these really, sorry,
The date that he's gonna go to architecture review.
we'll figure that out.
Okay.
I'll follow up with staff on a lot of this stuff. Okay, one change, section 726, that would just
So you're going
simply,
through your zoning changes requests that you have?
yeah,
Okay. And you gotta tell us why it matches up with the town plan.
well, that's pretty much in the application papers. I didn't make a slide of it, but it's basically consistent with flexibility and making a variety of housing opportunities available.
Because we have to prove that, if we're gonna say it's right, we have to prove that it matches up with town plan. and
Well,
conservation
yeah,
zone.
it's consistent, and it's
We've changed it
pretty
5
much.
times already.
Oh, I know, you keep doing it. Different zones seem to have different numbers, and I think what you've been doing over the years is going one by one. And,
In terms of zones, you just create new zones.
no, not all the time.
Where's my?
As I mentioned before, though, we don't need the full 2,000 square feet under the plan we have pending right now. So that's basically it. And this is obviously the 2-bedroom units. And the other change is more a clarification than anything else. In the CBD, you have this under the regular set of, the existing regulations, you have this requirement of one additional off-street parking space per bedroom. Now, I've always thought that that requirement applied in zones where you had mixed use, where you had a retail or some kind of non-residential use on one level with apartments above. And the parking requirement has, as I've always interpreted, and Jeremy can chime in obviously, is if you have a use on the first floor that requires 10 spaces and you have 4 bedrooms upstairs, you need 4 more spaces for the apartments. That requirement is not really clearly applicable here. So I don't think you'd want 1 space per bedroom necessarily, because you end up with fewer spaces required. You have another section in the regs that deals specifically with multifamily, and that is 1.5 units per, or 1.5 spaces for 1-bedroom apartments and 2 spaces for 2-bedroom and above. So the first part of this change, which is here, in mixed commercial and residential developments, one additional, it just specifies that it's in the mixed development situation. 1 off-street parking space per bedroom shall be required. The other change in this Note D is dwelling units located on the 3rd floor of a building shall be deemed incentive units under Section 585, provided that the use of the 2nd floor shall be limited to dwelling units. So I did the same thing in the neighborhood business zone, where there was this incentive unit, inclusionary zoning regulation that applies all over, but it didn't really specify in situations where you don't have specific density, what is an incentive unit. So what this change does is it takes the 2 levels and it treats the first level under the 14% of your basic inclusionary zoning requirement, and it treats the 2nd floor under the 25% incentive units under 585. Did you follow that?
I'm still trying to figure out how,
In
what's the first floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, because
Okay.
now you just switched it backwards. Before he said that's the ground floor, the first floor is the 2nd floor. Now you're
No.
saying it's the 2nd floor, it's the 3rd floor. So you're gonna make it 3rd? How tall is the building? Is it 2
Okay.
stories? Is it 3 stories?
Okay, let's do it this
Making no
way.
sense.
Let's do it this way. The lowest, I don't want to call it occupied.
See, that's why
but
you're creating your own problem.
No, the
Yes,
lowest,
you are.
the lower apartment level is
It's the
subject.
2nd floor of the building.
Yes.
Well, it depends if you count the garage as a floor. Under the flood regulations, the garage is not a floor. So we're just making it clear.
Come on.
What I'm saying
It's
is,
circles.
no. What I'm
There's
saying
4
is,
buttons on the elevator,
well, I don't know.
correct?
I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's 4 floors.
yeah.
So the roof is a floor?
Well, the roof's not a floor, and the garage is
You
not
got
a
more people
floor.
that live on the roof than you do on the first floor.
315.
Yeah,
All right,
and you don't have a parking problem.
okay. Let's do it this way.
There's 315 people on the roof and there's no parking problem.
Let's do it this way. Garage level, and immediately above it is the lower apartment level. The lower apartment level is subject to the 14% inclusionary requirement. The upper apartment level, under my change, makes it clear that that level is an incentive level under 585, subject to the 25% rule. So you get 14% of 11 on the lower apartment level and 25% of 11 on the upper apartment level. And that's what that regulation does. It clarifies what, that's what the amendment does. It clarifies what constitutes an incentive unit or
So you want us to
incentive
spot zone
units.
this just for this specific building? since you live in town? Because we did this over at John Viccaro's building.
I know that, I did that, and I'm
Correct.
it's exactly the
Which is
same
a
thing.
3-story building, and everyone knows it's a 3-story building because there's one unit on the roof.
Which building? Oh, I think was there two up there?
It's 1987.
1997 or whatever it is in the road.
Correct.
Sure. Right, so
So now you made that change there, now you're making it another change here.
it's very similar thing.
So you're making a
Because
change twice. You changed it through there, and then we're
Yeah, but
changing it again?
it's basically consistent with that. It makes it the same as that. Because that upper level becomes the incentive level. Okay? Now I can't, what's going, oh, here it goes. Come on. Okay,
So where
So-
in town
so-
planner conservation development say we should do this? And also go back to the first one, where you're changing it from 1,000 to 2,000. Where does it say in here that we should do this?
tell you in a second.
You
Okay.
gave us pages 97, 98, 103,
Mhm.
104.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
let's
I
go with
quoted-
the first change you want.
I quoted square footages from the design, basically the DBR zone,
What
which
page?
is, it's on page 5 of my narrative.
Right, but I'm looking at your pages in the back.
Yeah. Well, it's page 5 of the narrative.
Right, but I'm looking at what page in the top of the conservation development
Oh.
you're talking about.
Well, these are citations to the zoning regs, and they're basically in comparison, this is a comparable increase to these other zones, to be consistent.
I'm just trying to find a spot where it says, in this CBD zone, we should increase the size to 2,000 feet.
Oh, that's in there.
He quotes chapter 10.
Evaluate and consider eliminating size restrictions for multifamily units and rely instead on building size and build standards. Plan of development at page 106.
Where are you reading from, please?
Page 7 of my narrative, and I'm quoting from page 106 of the town plan.
Evaluate and consider eliminating sizes of multifamily units and rely instead on building size and bulk standards.
This is in
So your
the
bulk standards for this building, you're doing 46 units per acre, right?
46 units per,
Right,
well, there's
46 units per acre.
there's no density.
I'm not saying that,
Here.
but we're talking about bulk standards. The bulk standard for this building is 46 units per acre.
I don't know if that's,
That's 100% correct, do the math.
well, it's,
The state wants to change it to 20 per acre as of right, you're making this one 46.
but it's a commercial zone. It's in a
77
commercial
Leroy
zone.
is 32 per acre.
Right.
You're 46.
It's in a commercial zone.
That's in a
And,
commercial zone.
and
77 Leroy is in a commercial zone?
well, it's an overlay zone. 77 Leroy is an 830G application.
Right?
So it's a whole different
Still
situation.
36 units per acre.
But it's a whole different
32
type of
units.
application.
I'm talking about, you're quoting something about bulk standards. Okay? The most dense building we have in town is 77 Leroy. It's 32 units per acre. That's the bulk standard, correct?
Wouldn't say it's a standard. There's no standard that says
That's the number. David Genevieve,
That's-
the Powers is 15 units an acre, or if you want to call it Darien Crossing now.
right.
Avalon's 9 units per acre, you're 46. So where in here, it says to rely instead of building size and bulk standards.
This is the housing section. It
I
talks
know
about
exactly
diversity
what
of
it is.
housing. Does it?
Right? But you're relying on building size and bulk standard. This is it's a 20-some thousand square foot building at 46 units per acre. So why would we change the zoning to go up to 2,000 feet for a small building with a high bulk standard?
You don't have a bulk standard. There's nothing in
That's
the
what it
regulation
says,
that gives you
Bob.
a
What does
bulk.
it say? Read what it says.
It says evaluate and consider eliminating size restrictions for multifamily units and rely instead on building size and bulk standards. You don't have a bulk standard.
I
There's nowhere
understand.
in the regulation that
I'm
says
not saying we do.
there's a
I'm not
bulk
saying we do.
standard.
I'm not
Right.
saying we do. The bulk standards that we have in town are 9 units an acre, 15 units an acre, and the biggest one we have is 32 units an acre.
I guess you,
Well,
maybe
what
you
you're
say
doing
your
is-
bulk comparables, maybe,
You're-
maybe
you're-
comparables is a better.
You're pulling out individual projects in different places.
Yep.
Some of them are mixed use. And if you have, for example, a mixed use with 65 units plus a bunch of retail in a school, that's a whole different analysis.
Right, Avalon's not mixed use.
No, but it was built, now it's what, 25 years ago?
15.
30? Avalon? 1998 that went
Yeah,
through
it's
the
a nice,
process.
it's the
So
most
it's,
successful complex we have.
pardon?
It's the most successful complex that we have.
Yeah, and it was basically the first. You know,
Sedgwick Village was built before then.
What are we talking
Sedgwick
about?
Village.
I'm trying to get a reason why we need to change, I need evidence to why to change the zoning code that's in the town plan conservation development. So what he's pointing to is building size and bulk standards, or bulk
Skip all
standards.
standards, because we don't have them.
We don't have one, that's
So
my
we're gonna
point.
focus on building size.
It's actually size and build standards. And I think what you're talking about is build standards, right? What we've allowed to be built in
Correct.
town, what kind of volume we've allowed on acreage in town.
Right.
It's a build standard.
It's considered limiting size for multifamily units, and it said rely on building size and bulk standards. That's what we're asking.
So if we go with 2,000 square feet, there are going to be fewer residential units in this building, assuming they use the whole half acre, right? So isn't that a good thing?
We just made the minimum size lower to make the units more affordable. This is gonna make the units more expensive, right?
But they've got several affordable units already set.
Right?
There's,
That's why we lowered the standard. It used to be 900 square feet, we lowered it down to 500 square feet, so the apartments could be more affordable, whether they're regulated or deed restricted or not. We just need evidence to have a finding that says this matches the finding.
and it's consistency, not that it's mandated, it just has to be consistent. And so,
Okay,
there's a
so
whole
let's go
section,
let's go to the second one,
which one?
your second zoning change.
One additional, that's a clarification. More than it is anything else. In specifying when the one space per bedroom rule applies and when it doesn't. And the other is a clarification of a definition of what's an incentive unit. You already have incentive units or incentives built into the inclusionary zoning regulation. You already have that. This is a clarification. And it's consistent with the concept of providing for incentive units.
If this change.
And it also requires more parking than the one per bedroom rule in this particular project. I mean, that's where we are. But it's consistent, and there's a
In your
whole
opinion, it's
section.
consistent.
Sure,
In your opinion.
but there's a whole section in here on housing diversity. Manage residential development, maintain residential character.
Yeah, well, no,
Continue
it's-
to diversify
Why don't we just get town
Darien's
council-
housing portfolio, and that's exactly what this does.
Why don't we just have town council define as whether it's consistent and it's a clarification?
But at the end of the day, it's our decision.
Correct.
But we
Yeah.
can get advice from town council.
You can relax our parking requirement if you'd like, but
We just changed the parking requirements, let's change them again.
I'm not. But you
We
have,
just changed
you
them.
got two different standards. You have
All
the
right,
ones you
all
just
right,
put in,
let's keep going. What
and then
else?
you got
What else?
another one in the central business district that requires fewer parking spaces. And I think you never intended to stick with one per bedroom in the central business district in a all residential apartment house.
That's
And
not
all
true.
I'm doing-
That's not true at all. That's 100% not true. Because I was the one that pushed for it and I do residential,
Okay,
new construction work for a living.
then,
I
so,
100% push for it. It's got nothing, you're totally wrong,
so then we only need one space per bedroom.
okay? So that's why I don't want to change the regulation.
I mean,
just to satisfy
we can
one
do it
project.
that way. I was reading the regulations and thought it was an opportunity for a clarification. If you think I'm wrong, then we'll go back to one per bedroom and we'll give you that number of spaces.
How many spaces would that be?
Takes out well,
30.
you're basically removing a half a space for each one bedroom.
There'll be more units.
So, or you can build more units. You know, if you keep the maximum square footage, you end up with more units.
Okay. What else do you have for today?
So I'm trying to make this an opportunity to kind of manage this
Thank you.
under the incentives available under your regulations without going crazy over it.
Appreciate that.
And there you go. That's what I'm trying to do. Maybe sometimes it doesn't come across that way, but,
No, it doesn't.
okay. All right. Can I keep going? You're done here?
Please.
All right. Now you got me so messed up, I can't figure out how to work this. All right, hold on.
Jeremy, quick question. What are these regulations now?
Which one?
1926.
No, which one specifically?
The one that he's amending.
We just did it.
Oh, that's a long time
It's
ago.
been around for a long time.
Yeah.
If more than 2 dwelling units, then at least 30% shall be limited to one bedroom.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Okay, peer reviews. We just got them. Is Joe here?
No.
No, is he coming? No.
I don't know.
All right, we got Joe's letter the other day, and together with Rick Talamelli's comments, we will provide detailed responses to those. Point by point, we'll do it in writing, and we'll come back and kind of discuss it with you.
Okay.
On the traffic and parking, is Greg here?
Yes.
Greg, okay. Oh, there you are. I'll let him get up and talk, because this is just basically a
Bob, I run
thumbnail
the meeting. I was
of his.
trying to say when you're finished.
What's that?
Are you finished?
I'm pretty much done, yeah. Open items. I guess sewer is one, responses to peer reviews is another, and ARB, I think, is added to the list. Plus, the questions you've asked that we owe you answers on.
I would also add to your open items ARB.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was, right.
Okay.
I missed that, thank you.
All right, any other questions before, I know you want to hear from Greg, right? I'm assuming.
Anything else we're missing?
Nope, I think that covers
Any
it.
other questions for the applicant?
Good for now.
Yeah, good.
No,
Okay. Greg Del Rio's here, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with him first. Sir, we got his letters today. You sent two. One that responded to them and one responded to the police department?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you pull up figure 2, that would probably be best. Eric was speaking to in the beginning. Yeah, that
This one?
Yeah, that one's
Let me see if I can enlarge it here.
Greg is with Hardesty in Hanover. He's the town-hired peer reviewer. Looked at the application, reviewed it with his expertise.
Oh, here we go. I'll see if I can. Is that good right in there?
Yeah. Actually, zoom it back out in case there's a question about, I want the context of the intersection. That's good. I think it's
Okay.
fine.
I only have two zoom settings, so.
Is it set with the
Well,
laser pointer on?
oh, you want that to?
Yeah, that way, that
All
way.
right, then you gotta work it with that.
Just don't push it out. Right. I got it. Okay, good enough. Greg Del Rio, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, for Hardesty in Hanover. And so I'll just get right into it, I think. So what I'd like to do is, I think, address 3 issues, kind of break it down. There's the traffic study component and the traffic impacts to the local streets. There's site circulation and access, and then there's parking. I think those are sort of the 3 main buckets that we spoke about tonight that impacts transportation, traffic, access, parking.
Can you add loading to that?
I'm sure we can add loading to that. That's under my site access and circulation,
Okay.
as well as pedestrians. We'll start off with the traffic impacts. Whether or not you compare it to the bank or not, this is generating a very low amount of traffic volume, where it is sort of standard practice. With this low volume, we would not do a full-blown traffic study where you do the traffic counts, you do the analysis and the modeling, you get what we call the level of service and delays and the queuing for all these intersections. Part of the reason for that is because they did the trip generation. I think it was something like 6 trips out and 2 trips in the peak hour, for example. What they didn't mention, Neil didn't mention, was that they could have taken a transit credit. They could have actually reduced those number of trips by 20% because you're within a half mile of the train station. But because the numbers are so low, they conservatively just left it with the trip generation without the transit credit. But typically when you're having this low volumes, and we're talking lower than 20, and then when you consider, the 6 and the 2, well, they're not all making lefts out of the driveway to Sedgwick and to Post Road, right? Some of them are making rights, and they're going down, going north on Old Kings Highway to get to 95 to go north, right? So what we call that is traffic assignments and dispersed, right? We're dispersing the traffic onto their different routes in and out, so that any one intersection is not even getting 10 trips to it on any one approach. So I think that's something to think about, and that's why we do the trip generation. But in this case, we just do we call it traffic evaluation letters. It's different nomenclature for it, but it's not a full-blown study where we, like I said, would do the counts and do all the modeling, get all the level of service, compare it to existing conditions. I'm very confident that if you did do all of that, you would have a delay, an average delay, let's say Sedgwick going north to Post Road, which is one of the ones from what I'm hearing, is mostly concerned. You'd say, okay, maybe there's a delay today of 50 seconds, average delay. It would maybe at best add a second of delay. I don't think it would even add a second. When you did the whole 9 yards of running through a traffic study, it would go to 50.2 seconds. So that's the order of magnitude. Yes, there's an impact. Yes, there's more streets. We're definitely not saying there's not, but we don't expect there to be any major impacts or changes to general traffic in the surrounding streets. So that's the traffic impact study part of it. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions on the traffic impacts.
Just my big thing is the Goodbye Shopping Center next to you. How that factors into it, because there's a lot of that's one way in, and that's how you come out.
Right, and what I'm not sure what the concern though there is.
So you're adding, another building that's got 22 apartments and 30 parking spaces.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about that relationship between parking and traffic for a second. Right.
That's the largest shopping center in town of Darien.
Right, and they peak at different times. Right, so commercial and residential, or office and residential, peak at different times and in different directions. So parking for residential has the highest demand at night, right? Everybody's home, everybody's sleeping, parking lot's full, right? What happens in the morning is, people start to go to work, and there's very few trips coming in. Yeah, there's people who work overnight that are coming home, but for the most part, it's like a 70-30 split, usually, right? That's that 6 leaving and 2 coming in. So that happens at 5 o'clock, that happens at 6 o'clock, that happens at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, so that, right, by 10 o'clock in the morning, you have either an empty or a half empty or a 3/4 empty parking lot, because there's been more exits than entry. And in the middle of the day, it tends to be a 50-50 split for whoever's home. People are going out, running errands, coming back. It sort of evens out during the middle of the day in a residential development. And then as we get to the later part of the day, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, the opposite happens, right? The 6-2 type of trip generation is now 6 in, 2 out. And now the parking lot is starting to get fuller and fuller and fuller again, until you get to the evening when most people are home and the lot is full, or whatever the demand may be. And again, they're doing 1.7 spaces per unit. Again, for TOD, that's a very reasonable ratio of parking supply for a development like this. And again, taking into consideration you're near transit. And there is no, I don't think there's a credit there for this as far as zoning goes. So it's 1.7. On certain occasions, and now I'm sliding a little bit into the police comments, what about overflow parking? Mechanic lot has pay spots. It actually has 3-hour free spots, and then it has permit spots. So there is, right next door, public parking to handle some of the overflow that may happen. But staying with so does that help with that, the relationship between parking? Yeah, it's a funny thing, and there's not a direct correlation sometimes, but that's how it happens, and that's how they don't all empty. It's not 1/3 leaves at a particular hour. It's starting to empty over time, and then it starts to fill up over time. And that's happening at the opposite pace of what's happening at Stop and Shop, right? Stop and Shop, as our parking lot is leaving and getting empty, they're starting to come, right? They're coming, there's employees are coming to work at the shopping center, at retail, and their parking lot is fullest in the middle of the day and busiest during the middle of the day when residential is quieter. So they have opposite sort of characteristics. So that's the traffic impact part of the project. Site circulation. There was a comment, I think, on, let's see if I can use this thing. Okay. About switching and we actually thought about that for a short moment. And the issue with reversing the circulation so that you come in here and exit onto Old Kings Highway is the location. It's a very narrow property, and the driveway is about as far south as you can go to the corner of it, while providing access to the actual parking spaces. So it has to be there. If you remember the graphic the architect showed of the first floor and the parking, parking is up against this wall, so you need 18 feet off of there, and that's the drive aisle feeding into this driveway. Well, to make a left, you basically don't have enough room to make a left and get your car straight and at the stop line. There's just not enough room to make the left and a line in the roadway, right? And actually be facing the stop bar. You'd be kind of coming out at an angle. So it really, your kind of hands are tied as far as the way I look at it. You can make a right out only, but then you'd be forced into a mechanic lot, and that's not going to work, making everybody do that, right? That's not acceptable. So I think you're stuck with the clockwise sort of coming in on Old Kings and exiting, which is an improvement to today's geometry where we have 2 very wide curb cuts on Sedgwick and no exit or entry onto Old Kings Highway at all. And for many reasons, pedestrian safety is number one. Site design, we try to minimize curb cuts as much as possible so that there aren't as many vehicular conflicts or vehicular and pedestrian conflicts. So while we can't get an in and out on one side, this is the next best thing probably. So that makes sense to us. Again, remembering the low volume of trips on exits, it's 6, 8, 10, even 10. So we're talking on average, someone leaving the site during the peak hour, 1 car every 10 minutes. So they're not in a rush to get out, and if there are some queues on Sedgwick, and again, the peak hour, and from what I'm hearing, the concern, I don't know if that queue on Sedgwick is in the morning as well, but that would be the biggest concern where we're talking 6, 8, 10, whatever the number is. It's a low volume in that order of magnitude, is looking to make, and all 6 of them aren't making lefts. As I said before, there's at least a quarter of them, I'll say, that are going to make a right and then maybe make a left onto Old Kings Highway and go that way. Why would I sit in that traffic, right? If I do my Google Maps and Waze, it's going to tell me, take Old Highway, and avoid Sedgwick and Post Road traffic and get to 95 going north. Right? So it's not everybody is making those lefts. So now we don't have 6 lefts, we have 4 lefts. I won't even get into the alternate routes.
Why do you keep saying everyone's going to 95?
I'm not saying everyone's going. I said a quarter, maybe. I said, not everybody's making a left is what I said.
Right,
I'm
that's
saying
what
some portion of the 6,
You
Right?
get canceled.
Are those numbers 6 and 4 like industry numbers that
Yes.
you're getting from somewhere?
yeah, those are ITE trip generation numbers. And that we would have come up with the same numbers. We checked, we did run them.
Are we required to look at the next up stop sign on Old Kings Highway where you have the church and the daycare? Because I imagine when all those people are making the left out of this, they're going to run smack into the morning drop-off area at the church right on the corner there, which is full of traffic and
this
kids.
is on which street now?
On Old Kings Highway,
Well,
right after the Good Wives shopping exit,
Yeah, no.
curb cut. There's that intersection where you got the ice house on the right and the church on the left.
Right.
In the morning, right at rush hour, is daycare there, and
Yeah.
that area is a disaster.
Again,
But we don't. Do we need to look at that? How this is going to impact that?
because of the low volume of trips, I wouldn't say you have to look at that. No. If we were talking 50 trips, yes. 30 trips, maybe. Less than 10? It really comes down to, if I count Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm probably going to get a variation of 10 trips, through this intersection.
Why do we keep out weekends? That's what I'm
Usually we don't look at weekends unless it's a mixed use and retail's involved, because residential the peak hour during the weekend is even lower than the numbers that we're talking about during the week on the AM, which are your commuter peak hours.
Isn't your
So the
comparison?
impact on a weekend is even less than it would be. We typically only look at weekend impacts for retail.
Well, it's less for you, but because Good Wives is more mixed use, right? Because there's restaurants in there, there's a liquor store, there's a bunch of nail salons,
Right.
and there's a huge grocery store. On the weekends, I agree, if you're comparing it to the office building next door, right, that's dead on the weekend. But Stop and Shop is going to be the most busy on the weekends. and
Yeah,
on
so
Tuesday.
what you're talking about is background traffic.
Yeah,
Not site-generated traffic. So we're talking about what impacts is this development causing, not what are the background impacts. So we would be overlaying possibly higher volumes on Saturday.
that's what
Peak
I'm
hour
getting at.
is
You're
what
going to
you're
be
getting
adding
at.
more on Saturday, because then on Saturdays, I imagine, as you described, which I think makes sense, in the morning people are leaving, no one's coming, in the evening people are coming, nobody's going. On the weekend, it's 50-50 all the time.
Correct.
Right? It's basically balanced.
It's
So
a little bit exiting, and it kind of has.
But it's closer.
It's a watered-down version of the weekday. Yes. Right. But again, we typically would not do a Saturday for this type of development and this at this density for sure. So that's traffic impacts, part of it. The site circulation, I touched on a little bit about, the reasoning for coming in on Old Kings and exiting. With trucks, we did discuss, and I put it in the letter for them to consider, because the police had the same comment. Where would trucks go? I don't think trucks are going to fit underneath. Certainly not all of them. Some of the smaller step vans probably will. They're only about 7 to 8 feet, and as long as we have that clearance, they might be able to go inside. But the north side of Sedgwick is wide enough, so they're showing some shoulder striping of 5 feet on each side, but that leaves more than 12-foot lanes. I'm pretty sure if you reconfigure the lanes, we can put a 9-foot parking for just trucks on the far side, on the north side. And by the time you have your offset from this corner and the offset from the driveway to the commercial property, I came up with close to about 100 feet of linear feet for curb, which would be, 2-3 step vans or even box trucks.
So you want to put the loading?
That would fit there.
You want to put the loading for the building on the north side?
I'm just throwing out an idea. It's their responsibility to come up with the solution. I'm just the peer reviewer adding some thoughts. But yes, there's, what you're getting at is the person's got to cross the street. Okay.
With the unit of this size, I remember when we did Parklands, which was about 60 units, we estimated there were about 6 students that were going to attend there, and there was some notion of like the buses and where the kids are going to stop that had to do with the traffic of pulling in and out of that sort of wonky entranceway area right by 95.
Right.
Here, we got to assume there's probably going to be 1 kid, maybe 2 in here. Do we need to think about school busing in the mornings? Like how does that impact, or do we not think about that at all? Is there we got to assume at least especially if there's going to be 4 affordables and a couple 2-bedrooms.
Right.
There's certainly going to be maybe a young elementary school kid in this building.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the busing works in this area, but residential right across the street, and, I think somebody can look at it and see where the current bus stops and operations are.
Can we check that, Jeremy, see where Sedgwick Village kids take the bus?
Yeah.
And the other ones by the.
Yeah, because you're going to want to make sure that there's a safe,
somewhere
not safe routes to
crosswalk,
school in this case, but
exactly.
safe routes to the transit, and the bus that they'd be taking.
That's Sedgwick Village, isn't
I
it?
know.
The one up further.
Pine Brook would have more kids, I would think.
Yeah.
Pine Brook's the other one, then, Jeremy. Just going back, internal queuing inside the building, is that enough to make a left-hand turn out on
Yeah,
weekends?
I think so. Again, average of, the volumes that we're talking about and the time that they have to exit. So even when there's queues on Sedgwick, and when you're in congested areas, when the light turns green, the queue, moves up, and then that usually gives you a chance as cars come from the stop condition, and that's another benefit of having this stop sign. They're all stopped, and you have a little bit better of a gap to come out, make the left, and join the rest of the traffic that's building up for that next cycle, and be in the queue and get out.
What about the people that are going eastbound on Sedgwick?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, you're
Because when the light turns green,
right.
the westbound cars start to move, and the eastbound cars start
Yeah.
to come in, so
Yeah.
you're still gonna make a left
Yeah.
on a Saturday when everyone's going to the shopping center. You're fine with that?
It's their impact, so we tend to,
Who's there?
if meaning the site, meaning the tenant's impact, right? It's on them, it's on their property, it's not impacting your operations. But that said, eventually, if you're having that much of a problem, you'll make the right and you'll go around the block the other way, right? You can go through Mechanics and go by the fire. That is a signalized intersection to get you out that way. You can make a left, and that's a long way to get back to Post Road, but
So you want someone to come out, make a right, to make another right on Old Kings Highway North, then make another right.
I think I heard someone say they do it now, right?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I don't.
That circle, that's not a true rotary.
No,
But you got to imagine,
No,
instead
it's
of
not
doing
a-
that right, people are going to use it as a rotary and go, whoop, right around.
Yes.
I didn't want to say it, but you found it yourself, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can make the right and then make the U-turn basically using the rotary. There was a comment by the police department about, can we remove the rotary? The benefit of that would be you can actually tighten this intersection even more. So you can bring this sort of to a normalized T intersection. You could probably even move this further. Well, no, because we have the driveway over here. I think they've moved it pretty far north as far as this one goes. But there is some flexibility with how this would go, and then make more of a right angle. And just as long as you did the turning radius for the trucks, you'd be able to tighten that up. So that would be something to consider. And it's in the police comments, and I think I used some words similar. I said it was a design preference, but actually after I wrote it, I realized that you could actually tighten this up a little bit. And it's still a design preference, because there's pros and cons to sort of this hybrid, I'll call it, of a you know,
Quasi-
rotary, it's not around, obviously it's not a modern roundabout. So, yeah. Let me just see if I had any other major talking notes. We talked about trip generation, the entry, the reduction in the curb cuts, which is better for the pedestrians. We're adding the crosswalk, which is a plus for the pedestrians, so I didn't really see any major pedestrian issues. They didn't mention, and I didn't put it in my letter, either a bike locker room or bike racks anywhere on site, so some thought should be given to that.
Adam, you missed that?
I was getting to it.
I love the bike rack.
We talked about the intersection, we talked about the trucks, parking, it's not gated. I talked about mechanic lot. I think I hit most of the points that I wanted to mention.
Thank you.
But what are we doing about move-in? You said loading for the Amazon trucks across the street. It was your idea you threw out there. What about?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they still have to design that in, the loading for the move-in people.
Right, and how that operates. Usually it's off hours, they don't usually move in peak hours, and they do curbside, and they put the cones out. So there's different ways of approaching
I
that.
don't think we have that any place that, we don't have that anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know if you,
That does not exist in town.
yeah.
What about garbage? What is the garbage bag of the?
Yeah, I was not sure if we actually heard the solution for that, or.
So you gotta
or
find,
not.
you gotta hear the solution and
Yeah.
sign off on it.
Mhm.
Because right now there's 6, the garbage room's right inside the Old Kings Highway entrance, and it looks like they're rolling stuff out into the street, but the truck's gotta block the entrance.
And then where does the truck go?
That's what I'm asking
That's
you.
another part of, you're on that sort of dead end. You either go in the mechanics lot or, so I think there's some thought on, that needs to be given.
Okay.
If the truck, if the garbage truck's going north, you're crossing over a layer.
I mean, he's making, you know, it's not like they don't make U-turns, and garbage trucks haven't been in tight spaces before.
He's gonna back into that spot.
They'll block the only entrance at that point.
Correct. Yep, 100%. It's the only way you can do it.
Okay. Any other questions for Greg, George?
Yes, sir.
Amy? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so who else we don't have Joe Canis
Joe
today,
isn't
right?
here this evening, he sent his letter. We've received a number of letters from the general public.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting on 10:15. Some of the general public might be here. I don't know if they are or not.
So certainly if a member of the public has submitted a letter, the commission's received it, it's part of the file.
You got it today, yeah.
Yeah. But if someone's here tonight that wants to speak, we have time.
Okay. So you're coming back for another time?
Yeah,
Okay.
I need to get this on a power source because we're kind of getting low.
Okay. All right, so let's, anybody in the general public like to speak to this application tonight? There's gonna be another night, so you can come back another day, but if you're here and spent the time waiting for 3 hours, you're more than welcome.
Well, I definitely
You
want.
have to come up to the microphone.
Oh, I do? I didn't really want to speak, but I just wanted to come and learn.
Just come up here, that's fine, you can do whatever you want.
And,
Just state your name and.
my name is Lisa Savage. I live at Sedgwick Village,
Fantastic, thank you, welcome.
and I've lived there for several years. And I thought all the traffic talk was very interesting, very off, but whatever, I digress.
No, you're allowed to give your own opinion. on
Yeah.
something. That's state code.
Couple things. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I just wanted to, for the record, say that many of my neighbors did not get a letter that this was happening, and I was under the impression that we were going to get notice that this was happening. I got a letter. I did receive a letter very late, not certified letter. My concerns, I guess, are more safety related. Most of my neighbors are elderly, and I hope that no one gets run over, but I'm scared someone's going to get run over. And the traffic is so bad that I often walk because the traffic is so bad, and it's much faster for me to walk than sometimes waiting to get out of Sedgwick to take a right or even a left, but usually a right because it's on that side of the road. What else?
So you take a right out of Sedgwick Village to Sedgwick
Maybe go
Street.
to up Sedgwick to the Post Road.
Got it.
And then, that's another good point. I will sit there at the Post Road because usually the gridlock is so bad I can watch the light change easily 4 or 5 times. Easily. That happened today.
About what time do you think?
It was about 4 o'clock.
That's the peak time. on
Yeah, it
the
was
street.
about 4 o'clock.
I watched
It's-
I watched it change 3 times at 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
today.
it happens many times of the day. It's not just at peak hours. And then the reason I'm concerned about my neighbors or anybody really walking or driving is that right in front of Good Wives Shopping, there's a cute little sign that says 25 miles per hour, and it says radar patrolled. I'm so curious what that means, because 25 miles per hour never happens, and there's never been a ticket or a stop or traffic citation that I've seen. I've been there for several years. So I'm a little concerned about that as well. In terms of Good Wives, still, people go out the in and in the out. They seem to be super confused by that. So there sometimes can be people waiting to go in the exit, just sitting there waiting to go in the exit. It's just curious. In front of the real estate company, right outside of there, often because overflow parking, there will be parking on the street, so lots of parallel parking all the way around the corner. And people come around that corner so fast going towards the Post Road. And if the sun is just right, I've easily lost my life many times. But I'm aware now of the sun setting, so that's another kind of concern. Pets and pet pickup is another kind of weird and, kind of little curious issue. Not sure about pets and
Where they do their business.
where they do their business, and maybe little places to encourage. I don't know. So then everyone. No one really knows how to use the roundabout. Although no one uses the stop signs either, so they just go through the stop signs, use the roundabout, and keep going for the most part. So there's that issue, and then some new things I learned tonight about the building, and I'm curious about the rooftop. And again, safety. I'm based on the suicide rate in our town and in our county, I'm worried about somebody throwing themselves off the roof or being pushed off the roof. I don't know about parties and what the noise level is, if there's a time frame, if there's an attendant up there. I really don't know. I would love to know. Who owns the building? Who's the landlord? I'm just curious. Do we know who that is?
Well, it's Sedgwick Avenue LLC today, and the principal is a gentleman named Chip Platt, I think.
Platt?
Platt's P-L-A-T-Z.
And in terms of so it's a rental unit, right? So it's going to be I'm guessing a year lease, maybe more.
Could
Probably,
be rental,
yeah.
could be owner. The commission cannot dictate.
Oh, interesting. So it's not. We don't know if it's rental or.
The commission cannot dictate.
Okay. And then in terms of the
Well, we eventually have to know because of the affordables.
True.
Great.
and then the construction. As I said, live at Sedgwick, and already I hear some sort of construction, maybe it's train related, I'm not sure, that starts around 5 a.m. every morning. So I'm just concerned about timing of construction, noise, safety of all of that as well.
That's sunrise to sunset pretty much?
Generally, what we see is construction starting about 7 a.m.
Yeah,
7 a.m. is not a problem. 5 a.m. is usually a problem.
yeah, it shouldn't be fast.
I'm just looking at my notes really quickly. You guys, my neighbors, do you have anything?
I have one thing.
Okay, wait 1 second. Wait 1 second. Yeah, I just made a couple quick notes while I was listening to everyone talk. I used that bank a long time ago, and even when I did use that bank a long time ago, it was always dead. That's why it went under, because it was hardly anyone ever there. So it was really never active.
Right.
I guess that's it. Safety really is my key thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Come on.
Anybody else like to speak?
I haven't been in front of a podium in about 50 years.
Your name and
Hi, I'm
address?
Susan Marcello. I live at Sedgwick Village as well. I've lived there 27 years. The bank has not been gone for 40 years because I banked there.
Four, I said.
Oh, somebody said 40 here.
No.
Or maybe I heard wrong. Not you. Not you.
I opened my checking account today.
Me, well, and it wasn't that busy. I have one concern, or a few, she touched upon. This here, trucks going to Good Lives, huge, massive trucks go through there already. How are we gonna create a space for trucks and to delivery for this big unit? I don't think this is that wide. I drive here all the time. I walk my dog. I go around Mechanic Street. I just don't know. Can't they create a roundabout like every other place for deliveries? That's the
We're trying to figure
solution
that out so far.
to me. And that's all I got. Bye.
Thank you, Susan. Would anybody else like to speak? Sure. Welcome. Just your name and address for record?
Yes, the name is Rolf Oben, 9 Archer Lane, Darien, Connecticut, RTM member, District 4, Public Works Committee, although I'm not speaking in the capacity of the RTM. I don't know how aware you are about the sewage questions, sewer access, the sewer situation that is still pending with regards to this development.
A little bit.
I've watched a number of meetings about it, and yeah, it's a huge question because there's a junction of pipes that come together, some of which come from this location to a area on Post Road, and they've done a number of analyses on that, and right now they're saying that that junction is pretty much at capacity now. So there's a big question about, should this go forward? It could very well put that over capacity, and that certainly is not an acceptable option.
Great.
So I'm going to stay in touch with the meetings as they go along. I think that's on their next agenda when they meet again, and I don't think that, until that's resolved, I don't see how this could possibly go forward. And that also, just as I may just get this in since I'm speaking, this also opens up the question about development in general for the town and the capacities that we have in our infrastructure to support development. You know, we all want to have the town development, but we must be cognizant of whether or not we have the infrastructure to support it. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to this application? There is going to be another night, and we do have letters in the record. Okay. Rob, so...
I actually would like to speak.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead. What's your name and address for the record, do you mind?
Excuse me?
Your name and address for the record?
My name is Jack Savage. That's my mother, who you just heard speak. We also share an address at 26 Sedgwick Village Lane. Actually, her property is just cut off in that photo there. My main concern is that my mom bought this property as an investment, and putting an apartment building across the street is going to devalue her property and infringe upon her privacy with a barbecue pit and a pool on top of a building that's going to look into her front yard. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Maslin. we're gonna extend this for another, more information and whatnot. So you're coming back to us with a laundry list of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. We still need to hear from Joe Canis.
Right, give the applicant time to draw up some new plans,
Right.
review and analyze. We're looking at a continuation date of Tuesday, May 2nd.
Okay. If they're gonna go to architect review, is there a time between now and then?
April.
Oh, they go then, like April?
Right.
Yeah, all right, I got you.
So that would be Tuesday, May 2nd, 8 PM, or 7:30, we meet 7:30. So it's,
Would the sewage commission
yeah,
have met
they
by
meet
then?
next week.
Thank you.
Okay. How many days do we have to look at this one? Because that's, you just pushed it up a month, right?
Yeah,
We're
it's
good on time?
35 days to continue the hearing, so,
You're good. You can go to 35 days. It gets you into May 2nd,
May 2nd.
or whatever that Tuesday is. That's the 35th day.
If we need more time after May 2nd, then we have to ask.
Continuation. So there won't be any more letters going out to neighbors. The discussion tonight is, we'll post it to the website as it gets closer, but this is the announcement of the continuation of this hearing to Tuesday, May 7th, 2nd, May 2, at 7:30 PM here in Town Hall.
Okay, then as part of the application, I saw your names of people that you send it to.
Oh, there's a very long list. We got
Yeah, it's a really
everybody in
long
the-
list.
everybody in the condominium. All the owners
Right.
were
The
sent
letters do not
certified
need to go certified
certificate of mail.
or return receipt. Bob just needs proof that he mailed them within between 10 and 20 days prior to the hearing, which was done.
So Sedgwick Village, I'm just make sure everyone knows, and I know, Sedgwick Village is linear, right? So the distance, your circle stops
No.
at some point in time?
If it's a condominium, you have to notify every unit owner,
The whole shooting match?
whether they're within 100 feet
Even
or
if a
not.
small portion of the property is within 100 feet. So
Yeah.
all the condominium
Yeah, we do
owners
that.
were notified.
That's, okay. No, I saw your list, I didn't.
Yeah, oh
it-
yes,
It
it's
says
a very
like,
long one.
yeah, I know, okay. So everybody in the neighborhood should have got it. All right, so we will see you May
May 2
8th.
at 7:30 PM.
Is that enough time to get the ARB's report?
They may have to have a
We
special
shall see.
meeting or something. We'll see what happens. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next. It is now 10:28. We're doing this for 3 hours. We have to look at Harbor Point tonight.
We can do that at our next meeting, which would be April 18th.
Can we punt it? Do you guys mind? I gotta play the game. Let's go tomorrow.
No, April 18th.
Okay.
I don't think it's a comment, but I must say, I looked at
All right, did everyone have their comments on that one? You're right, let's pass
It's quick, I have no comments.
it. Okay.
I'm good.
I only have one comment, not to get us delayed, but
Have to
in
read
there,
this into the record, don't we?
Yeah, if you want to read the general.
Okay, we're gonna leave the public hearing, we're going to the general meeting. Deliberations of possible decision on the following, I'm just gonna read the title, Coastal Site Plan Review Number 370A is an Apple Flood Zone Prevention Application Number 432A, Landfill and Regrading Application Number 532A, Christopher and Lisa Hughes at 20 Harbor Road. This is the one where the guy is rebuilding his house.
25.
He got 25 Harbor Road, is what I
This
said.
morning
right?
got P&Z approval. They came back to the commission because they changed the nature of the retaining walls, and
It's better
there was a
because
change in the
it's so-
trees that were removed. We specifically talked about that in one of the notes here, that some trees to be preserved and not preserved, so they've come back with a different landscaping plan.
So-
Called the landscape designer, Jennifer, was there.
Yep, so questions, comments, scrivener's errors, typos in this one? Adam, see anything?
I think the only thing I would say is, didn't we talk about adding a site monitor? But I don't know that I saw it in the findings.
I don't think we talked about it. for the-
Yeah, no, this one, it's like a dead end street.
No, never mind.
I'm gonna let George go first.
Construction on the site is well underway
Yeah.
now as well.
So you're good? Yep. No comments?
I'm fine.
The only question I had is, I noticed that in the, it was a requirement that the landscaping plan as submitted be a requirement.
Yes, because that was, and I want to mention that, that's in condition A. The original plan showed a series of trees to be preserved along the water. And if you've been to the site, you've seen that they're all gone. They've all disappeared.
Yep,
So now they brought in a new landscape designer,
yep,
and we've said, okay, that seagrass to hide the walls, and these new plantings
Okay.
going in. One of the issues that we're concerned about is, today is March 28th, that this house won't be done till December, January, February. And all day, every day in our office, people say, in January, I'm ready for my CO. We say, where's your plantings? Well, I can't possibly do them now. So we've said, since
Okay.
we know
Okay.
that your house won't be done by
Got it.
October, in this case, you're gonna do the plantings and back your way out of the site, because by then, the walls will be done.
yep, okay.
So I think we want to tell the applicant up front, look, you're gonna have to do the planting, because what are we gonna make?
Yep.
The house might finish this November, what are we gonna tell them? Don't move in for 6 months?
Yeah.
Plantings?
Okay, I was wondering what the rationale was, because I didn't remember that being as specifically.
Right, this is the first time good catch, specifically said to the applicant, you better think it out, because
Yep.
we don't want to bond for the plantings,
Yep,
because
And nobody likes a TCO. Sometimes we've done
Right.
TCOs, you
Yeah.
move in, you can't mortgage
Yeah.
it. and then you tell
I'm just also mindful of, a plan like that costs a lot of money, and as you start building a house, it starts like, it starts raining on your head, and I just don't want to handcuff this homeowner to something that he presented that was like the Taj Mahal, and then he has to, value engineer it out. I don't want to.
right, well,
I
this
don't
is
wanna
where the walls
put
have been
something
value
onerous
engineered.
on
Right.
him.
And
That's.
it is quite a house.
I'll leave it to your discretion
Quite a
based on.
planting plan.
Yeah.
It's a lot of material.
Right. The commission did not draw it up.
Right.
It was drawn by the applicant's designer.
So it's part of the
And in
application.
fact, I think at the hearing, in response to your question, the applicant, the owner, was at the meeting
Yeah.
and acknowledged.
He approved the budget. It was part of the record. that
Okay.
he approved the
Okay. I
budget.
just wanted to.
No, good question, and I wanted to point out condition A, because it's
Okay.
a little unusual, but imperative in this case.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that said, I intend a motion to approve as submitted. George makes the motion, Adam makes the second, all those in favor? Aye.
Thank you all.
Fantastic.
All right.
Keep going down this thing. Next time, any other business required 2/3 vote? Something with about, you had something on dairy and self-storage, which is hollow tree stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk after the meeting.
Okay. Upcoming meeting is April 4th. I will not be there on April 4th.
Neither will we.
Yep, so we're gonna cancel the 4th because Jeff won't be here as well.
Okay, so that's canceled. Then we got April 18th.
Yep, next meeting's the 18th.
Is there one after that, between the second?
The 11th, there's no meeting because of spring vacation.
No, after the 18th and before the second.
Yep, there's meetings April 18th, April 25th, and May 2nd.
Okay, great. All right, fantastic. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
With that said, motion to adjourn. He makes the second,
Yep.
first. You make the second. All in favor?
Yep.
Go you
All right.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, TV 79.